It is 5 o'clock somewhere. What is going on, everybody out there? Are you smoking a fucking... What is that?
Praise Satan in all his glory. It's my Jade Chillum on my Aunt Zelda joint holder.
That's fucking cool. I need one of those. It looks like a crack pipe for everybody that doesn't know. It definitely does look like a crack pipe.
Until I hold it up to the thing and you can see that it's made of jade and it looks like a Chillum, or it's just a one-hitter.
I like the idea of the one hitters. You always hit them, and I'm kind of like, and it looks kind of fancy because Anton's got it for all the audio listeners, like on a ring, and it's
for our audio listeners that have seen the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the cigarette holder that Aunt Zelda has with the two little hands on it.
That's sick. Where'd you get that from?
I bought it on Amazon after watching Sabrina because I'm a basic bitch.
Welcome everybody to the podcast. If you're new to this, I am Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson. This is exciting, and obviously, who do I have with me? One of my co-hosts of this strange journey that we take down these roads of podcast episodes. Oh, I made a rhyme, didn't even mean to.
Anton. What's up, everybody? It's Reverend Kaiju, feeling half awake on this cold, fucking, snowy, fucking... Let's get into some aliens, shall we?
Yeah, Anton got fucking plummeted by snow. Plummeted, is that
plummeted? I got plummeted. Is that the word? Is that the word we're going with?
He got rammed.
I got pummeled. I got pummeled by snow.
I got another one of my Howl to the Moon. It's tasty. And Aaron was like, does that say milkshake? And I was like, yeah, it's an IPA milkshake. It's a blood orange IPA milkshake.
Does it
IPA.
Bring all the boys to the yard?
Sometimes.
Are they like it's better than yours?
Not really, but sometimes. Sometimes.
So then if you teach me, you won't charge because it's only sometimes.
I might have to charge a little bit though. It is an expensive beer. It was for a 6-pack. I think it was like $28 or some shit. But it's 6%, and it is 11 o'clock when we're recording, so let's have some fun. And it's a Sunday.
That's a reason to embrace alcoholism. Yeah, it's Sunday. You can drink whenever. It doesn't matter.
Yep. And we're getting back into aliens, which we haven't really touched upon in a while. So I'm glad to be diving back into the world of ufology, alien creatures, and abductions because it is a lot of fun.
Aliens are always a good topic.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is a crazy case. And I feel like I've heard about it. It's one of the more well-documented case, but it's crazy. This is nuts. It's also obviously known as the Andreasson Affair, but it's the alien abduction of Betty Anderson Luca. And the crazy thing is, she died this year.
Yeah, March, right?
Yeah, she died this year. So. Which I didn't know when I was doing research into this. Then I obviously realized because I wrote this out a couple weeks ago, and I was like, we got to get back into aliens, okay? It's been a while. We have to dive back in to the land of the realms beyond what we know, and this one's crazy. This one is crazy.
This one is a bit of a... this one has a couple points that, for any of our listeners that have seen the film The Fourth Kind with Mia Jovovich, there's a couple things that are kind of similar. Mainly
that movie is frightening.
It is. It really is. And then you look into it and you realize that it's not a true story, and it kind of makes it shitty.
But it's kind of drip fed into things that they've encountered in the study of ufology and aliens and stuff like that.
It's very clearly taken from sources that are real, air quote real, in the UFO community, and they just took artistic license with it and did their own creative spin, if you will.
Just like Aaron, when we talked prior to a recording, he didn't really remember watching Dark Skies. And I was like, you need to watch that movie because it's crazy.
I've seen that one. You know what I just watched for the first time last night?
It's great, man. It's a scary alien abduction style movie.
And I'm going to get a lot of shit from my fans about this, but Suspiria. I just watched the original Suspiria for the first time last night.
I've never seen that either, and I kept looking at it.
It's a masterpiece. It's an absolute masterpiece. Yes.
That's so funny because I feel like I just asked you guys. I was like, should I watch this? And I
The 2018
I asked in our chat.
The 2018 one's different. I've already had that spoiled, but I'm still looking forward to watching it. I moved my VCR into my room, last night because we were snowed in and I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And I had that copy of Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, the Jeffrey Combs playing H.P. Lovecraft film, which episode on that coming out soon on House of Trash.
Is that any good? I've never seen
Yeah,
it.
it's so a bunch of the segments are directed by Brian Usna, who also did Society. So all the creature work is gooey and drippy,
fucked,
and yeah, it's that level.
It's fucked up.
It's that level of effects work, and I loved it. The storyline is whatever, but that's not why I watched it. If I want a Lovecraft storyline, I'll watch Del Toro.
That might come out for like a maybe a watch along or a commentary because the movie Society is fucking horrifying.
Oh, Society, you mean? Yeah, Society's great.
It's so crazy. So we haven't touched about aliens, obviously, and I'm so happy to get back into talking about aliens and UFOs because there's a lot of stuff coming, like, and the fact that we have like talks about doing big conspiracy episodes. Aaron right now is working on some Scientology research, so get ready for that. He's reading tons of books right now and is diving deep into that. And I was like, if you want to take the reins on that one, yeah, go ahead, man.
We're more likely to get murdered for that episode than we are for cracking wise at our more recent one.
Oh yeah, that's very true. That should be out. It will be out a week before this, and you'll know what we're talking about when it comes out.
Yeah, you will.
But let's get into it, and let's just play a little clip, kind of to bring us in to this specific alien abduction case.
In your personal recollection, did indeed what Betty Andreasson described during that hypnotic session actually occur to her? I believe that probably most of it did. We can't prove that. And why I say that is, well, first of all, we know they believe it happened. They relived it as a real experience. Becky, her daughter, relived it from her own vantage point. Three persons consciously remember the initial part of the experience, the father and the daughter and Betty. I think it's interesting that you can go back to January 25th, 1967, and check things like the weather, the power failure, how much snow was on the ground, what was on TV, and things like that. We were able to do all kinds of checks like that, which indicated that they really were describing January 25th, 1967. What interests me the most is, though, that we have about 200 cases on file very similar to the Andreasson Affair. And there are subtle similarities which exist between these cases, which we feel no way some of these witnesses could have
faked it. I don't know why I cut off like that, but and that is, we'll get into him, but he's one of the ufologists, and they try, and this case is crazy because they really did try to disprove it. They use lie detectors. They trace back to the time when they said this event happened. It's kind of crazy because they really try to disprove it, but everything they were saying, at least when these people experience this stuff and they regress it using hypnotherapy, they really do believe it. As you guys remember from our Betty and Barney Hill episode, one of the most famous alien abductions of all time, they believed it. If you hear Barney Hill's audio recording, he's terrified.
Yeah, that one's pretty decent and pretty deep as well, as far as the dedication that the people had to their stories.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And so one of the most documented and believable cases in ufology is the experience of one woman's abduction aboard a UFO. Her name is Betty Andreasson Luca, who was a devout Christian. During her abduction, she was taken aboard, taken before a being of intense light and love called the One. And it does kind of harken back to the book that I read called The Law of One, because all this stuff seems to tie in together, all these UFO and cases and stuff like that. Because
Tom, what's the best headspace to be in when you're reading the Book of One?
Is there going to make a joke? Are we making a joke now?
What should somebody do to prime their mind to?
Oh, eat some mushrooms. Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah,
it's an interesting. I listened to the audiobook, and man, I still have volume 2 to go through. But that stuff's fascinating. I've said that about that book before, but fascinating. Who knows if it holds any validity? But it's the idea that they were channeling the entity Ra from Egyptian times, and he explains everything that is existing in our reality and why it exists, and it's quite crazy. Just like this story. And
Yeah, this story
so,
harkens back. Some of the paintings that I've been looking at kind of harken back to Akon as well. Like
oh
that one
yeah.
especially is giving me big Akon vibes.
And we're gonna, obviously, for the audio listeners, you can look this up, but she was also an artist, and she kind of, like, as she was growing up, because she was like a little girl when this kind of happened, and so she actually was able, when they were doing the hypnotherapy and the regression, she was able to then recall her memories and actually draw them out. And it's pretty crazy, because if you have someone that can actually interpret the thoughts that they've had, or the experiences in their memories in their mind, and able to draw it, I feel like it makes a big difference.
Yeah, she's actually a very talented artist. If for all of our listeners, just do a quick search for Betty Andreasson paintings, and there's a sub Tumblr called the God Spot, aka the G Spot, that you'll be able to click. That's what it's listed as. It's pretty funny. You'll be able to click on it, and it has all of her paintings. So like the one of the hybrid baby in the jar that for some reason also has a face mask on.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's some sort of breathing tube for it to be in the liquid thing that it's in, and then all the light and beams bouncing around and what have you.
There's crazy cases of people that really believe this. There's I've mentioned before on the podcast, there's a video of watching in this woman during like a UFO kind of conference, and she claims that she's a hybrid of a gray alien and a human, and she does look very strange looking, like, obviously, like, I don't want to be rude or anything like that, but
She looks like she could possibly be a hybrid.
yeah, like, there's her facial features are quite interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
And I can't remember her name, but she essentially, like, she believes it. She's like, I've seen some of her other stuff, and she breaks down and cries talking about this stuff, and saying, and her mother was a heroin addict who never took care of her. So she describes that they would take people that would be less likely believed, and they brought her mother aboard the ship, and ended up, it was a frightening experience. And the crazy thing is, what this woman claims, not Betty Andreasson, but this is another separate case, is that she remembers being in, like, the tube, the test tube, so to speak, and, like, opening her eyes and seeing her mother freaking out. And when the aliens eventually gave the baby back to the mother rejected her, didn't want anything to do with her. But yeah, I don't know if you can blame it, because they want, when they supposedly, me and Billy talked about this on the alien hybrid, because all these things kind of they all kind of, it's all a big spider web, and they all kind of connect in a weird way. So this idea, right, that like the hybrid races of beings, they would, at least when the aliens create them, they would need to give them some sort of motherly love, because this human side of it needs that. You need to produce the milk and the antibodies and all that stuff. So, and I think that what I've read, especially when it comes to alien hybrid babies and alien babies and all that shit that are connected with at least our human DNA and genetics, that you need that love and unconditional, like, motherly love to survive.
Yeah, it releases certain hormones in your body, and it's a crucial part of the development of a child. Absolutely.
100%. So this is a crazy case. So let's get fucking right into it. This description of these beings is remarkably similar to the descriptions of the so-called being of light encounter in near-death experiences. Her first abduction occurred during her childhood, and it kind of accumulated with an abduction experience that involved her whole family, which is crazy, led by a number of teams of highly led by a team of highly credentialed investigators. That's a weird word.
Credentialed?
Credentialed. Yeah,
Yeah,
investigators.
it means that they have
a lot of credentials.
Yeah.
That's a weird word. Credentials. I have a lot of credentials in nothing particularly fun. So her experience is one of the most thoroughly investigated cases ever reported in the annals of hypnotherapy.
Jesus Christ.
Annals.
Annals.
On the evening of January 25th, 1967, Betty Andreasson was in her kitchen at South Ashburn Ham. That's a nice name. In Massachusetts. I know, guys. I know you hate the way I say it.
Massachusetts. God, now you got me doing it. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Massive two shits. Her seven. Yeah, it's like everyone in Massachusetts is gonna be like, fuck
I'm sorry
You.
for our Massachusetts listeners. I loved your wonderful state when I visited. So thank you.
Her 7 children, mother and father, were in the living room, and about 6:35 p.m., the house lights suddenly blinked out for a moment. Then a pulsing reddish-orange light shined in the kitchen window. Betty claimed that the frightened children, Betty calmed the frightened children while her father rushed to look out the kitchen window. He saw a group of strange-looking creatures approaching the house, and they were kind of like floating and hopping. It was a weird, like, floating hopping thing.
Gravitational difference, baby.
What?
Gravitational difference.
Yeah, it was weird. Like they said that they were kind of like they're hopping, but they're also floating. Which imagine like you see some like sort of light outside your fucking window, and then you you see these like creatures like
Well,
you wouldn't think of anything at first, right? You would think, oh, maybe it's an electrical disturbance, maybe like a power line blew. Because that happened at my work the other day where I was in my car and I heard like a gunshot go off.
oh yeah, when those things blow, they're fucking loud.
It's fucking crazy. And it was like, and I saw like behind me, like almost like this greenish shoe of light and stuff like that. Because the way it's like blew up, I don't know how those the electric transmitters that they have for like power lines and stuff like
Transformers.
Transformers. I don't know why transformers. Thank you, Anton. But that shit was fucking loud. It looked weird. So you would think at first, like rationally, it's like nothing that bad. Like everyone just get down. Maybe it's the Russians.
Well, I mean, if you think about like the
60s.
spacewalk footage of, you know, like Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and everybody walking on the moon, that's a float hop. It's a float hop if you ever did see one.
If that's real.
We're not saying that. I'm not sitting
Yeah,
here pretending to take a stance on that one way or another. I definitely think that we have been to the moon. Do I think that we went when we said we did? All I know is that a lot of the stuff can be recreated in a studio pretty
Stanley
easily.
Kubrick,
I don't think I buy the Stanley Kubrick fucking angle. I think that's just bullshit made up to further his legacy as a good director rather than furthering his legacy as a complete piece of shit human being.
Why is he a piece of shit?
What do you mean, why is he a piece of shit? Stanley Kubrick was a fucking asshole to everyone that he worked with.
That's okay. If you're a genius, you can be an asshole. People look at Kanye
West. No, it's not. No, fuck you, Kanye. Fuck you, Elon Musk. Fuck all of you billionaire.
I don't like Elon Musk, but Kanye's been saying some real shit.
Fuck no, he is not. Kanye's been saying some real dumb shit.
I like it.
Anyways, I'm sure you do.
It's a fun time. We live on a fun planet, man. I understand why aliens do not want to come here and visit our dumbasses.
Can you please just obliterate us already? Like, for real. I'm looking into the camera and I'm begging you, wipe the planet out, please. For the good of the galaxy, wipe the planet out.
Because it's only going to get worse from here. 5 small humanoid creatures entered the house, passing right through the wooden door. Betty's family was immediately placed in suspended animation. And this is one of the crazier.
I'm immediately calling bullshit on this story. You know what? Because I watched a great documentary by the great documentary filmmaker M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, and this film called Signs. And you know what the biggest takeaway I had from that film is? Can't open doors.
Oh, yeah. I know.
I refuse to believe that these aliens opened that door.
No, they walk through it. They
exactly. They won't pass through it because they don't know how to get through a door. Shyamalan Ding Dong would not lie to me. I
don't know why he put that in that film. I like Signs. We watched it outside by the fire over the summer, and it's good. But there's obviously issues. Like this idea that they're intelligent beings, but they can't walk through fucking doors.
Is there ever any concrete evidence that they are alien? Or is that what we have interpreted them as? What if they're subterranean reptile people that are allergic to water?
Yeah.
Because I refuse to believe that a species can master intergalactic travel and struggle with a pantry door.
Yeah, I know. So true. So true.
I guess I'm giving him more credit than he's due because The Village was the worst fucking movie I've ever seen in my life.
I watched that on 3 grams of mushrooms. And
of course you did. Was it still terrible or did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it to an extent, but there's some like very dry, weird parts of the film, and like he's a weird dude and has a weird. We watched he did a show recently. It won't come to me, but it's about like this. It's a really weird show about it, but it has like Harry Potter, Ron Weasley from Harry Potter in it, and it's they this woman ends up like essentially killing her baby, and then it gets replaced, but she carries around this fake baby, and then her babysitter turns the baby real. It's a fucking such a weird show, but it's actually kind of good because
That sounds interesting.
it's in a like seems like a there's a lot of occulty stuff. Like
Ron Weasley or Rupert Grint. Sorry, I keep calling him Ron Weasley. Rupert Grint has been doing a lot of good stuff lately. He was in it wasn't Pickman's Model, it was Dreams in the Witch House on Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which was pretty damn good.
Oh, we're on that episode. We haven't watched that one yet.
Did you already watch Pickman's Model with Crispin Glover?
Oh, that one was fucking
so
crazy.
Good. So
Crispin
good.
Glover is creepy as fuck, man.
Wait till you get Crispin Glover is a phenomenal actor, and I adore him dearly. Wait till you get to The Viewing. I think it's the one right after the one that you're on. That's the one with Eric Andre and why am I forgetting RoboCop's name? Peter.
I haven't seen RoboCop since I was like 10.
I'm sorry. I'm blanking on your name. I know it. It's in the front back of my mind, but I just hit a
think
ball.
He's listening to this and gonna be like punching his radio?
I hope so. I really hope so. I'm sorry.
He doesn't know my fucking name. Keep going.
that episode is directed by the director of Mandy, and it's stylistically very, very similar.
No one's gonna like my opinion, but I didn't really like Mandy.
Yeah, watch it again on mushrooms, Dingus.
Oh, it feels like it would be even scarier.
It's an acid movie. Watch it on mushrooms. It's fine.
It's not a bad idea.
Dude, that movie is amazing. Like I left the theater and I was like, meh, that was okay. And then I watched it again and was like, oh no, that was fucking brilliant.
Like I said, Chelsea, Nicolas Cage doesn't like. And now now she doesn't like Brandon Fraser, and Brandon Fraser got a standing ovation for Whale. So
Peter Weller. His name is Peter Weller, and I completely forgot that. Chelsea, you're wrong. You're wrong, okay? You're wrong. Brendan Fraser is wonderful.
Oh, I actually like Brandon Fraser.
All
right, is this a House of Trash, or should we get back to Aliens?
Hey, check out House of Trash, people. Remember to go like and subscribe.
One thing that I said was like so crazy about this case is the idea that they get stuck in suspended animation.
That was the coolest part, I would say.
That's crazy. Because I've heard of them like kind of doing that. That's what it reminds me of, like Dark Skies, which me and Aaron are going like, and if you want to join, we'll all do like a not a commentary, but like a big review and discuss the film as a whole, because that movie, this idea, there's like the woman comes in, I think the mother, and everything is just like frozen in suspended animation, like everything in her kitchen, and then she's like kind of like, what the and then it all comes crashing down, and they don't know what the fuck's going on. So imagine like you see these lights, these creatures kind of pull up, and then you're frozen in suspended animation. And I wonder if you can see though. Can you like, if you're frozen like that, is it like you're stuck in a block of ice where you in like, but you're, I don't know, I guess you would be dead if that happened, but.
I would say that if they had found a way to master cryogenics, and I would hope that they would have if they had mastered travel or stasis of any sort, just something to temporarily put somebody into suspended animation, I would assume there's some way to do it, right?
Yeah. One creature went over to her father. The leader and the other four established telepathic communication with Betty. What do you think they said?
We are here to do some routine tests on you and give you your meningitis shot. We are responsible for your planet. You are our dogs, and we love you very much. You're a good puppy. Pat, 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 pat.
That could have been, it's like, because we don't know anything about aliens, or really we don't. We're just like taking from people's experiences.
I think South Park told us all we need to know. I think we're an intergalactic reality show.
Yeah, that could be. The leader was about 5 feet tall. The others were about 4 feet tall. All had large pear-shaped heads, wide cat-like wraparound eyes, and literally like no nose or ears. It was like either like they're kind of like slits essentially in the side of their heads or in their face, like the normal grays that you would see.
Yeah, your usual typical description of grays.
Their mouths were immobile slits that reminded Betty of scar lines, which is crazy.
Well, that goes into the whole grays being like, and I got one hanging on my my sweet little gray.
I got my gray mask right here for everybody watching.
But that's similar to the whole grays are androids thing, where if you think about it, you just cover it in a flesh type thing to make it look remotely human, to be like, kind of the intermediary between whatever entity and
Or
the
there's
humans, to not scare them.
yeah,
And then they're like, well, we're not going to waste the time to paint a face on, so we'll just slit
Yeah.
it to make it look like a mouth. And
or they're synthetic aliens, so to speak. They have like
that's what I mean when I say androids. They're not
they're
robots,
like real. They're like
hybrids.
real, but that's the idea, right? Is that they're made in like a lab essentially,
Mhm.
and that they're
They're
not
grown.
born from a womb, and that they're like a hive mind. That all the grays supposedly can like, and there's so many ideas about grays in general,
Mhm.
which we can always go back and do a big talk like we did on like kind of the Dahmer episode, is like do a good 3-4 hours and just discuss grays and reptilians as a whole, and this idea of what these creatures actually are, because then there's the idea that they could be an evolved race that stayed underground, their
Future
skin got
humans.
gray. There's all these different ideas of how the grays
Yeah, they could be
work and how
time
they
traveling
could.
future humans as well, and like
Yeah.
that's what humans turn into after just constantly breeding until there's nothing necessarily like to our eye, at least, that it would just be like how humans change in appearance over generations.
Yeah, my theory is that they're probably some sort of robots to an extent, like an android created by the reptilians to be used as an interface with our reality. But then you have the idea of the tall whites, which is another discussion, because they're like more intelligent, and the Archinians and all these fucking aliens.
Mhm.
There's so many, you'd be surprised. So each wore coverall blue uniforms adorned with a Sam Brown type belt. I don't know what that is, but a Sam Brown type belt.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, and I didn't take the time to look it up. So let me do that right now.
A Sam, like it's like a sash belt.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like kind of like a for anyone that can't see what we're doing on the audio or the video, it's like a belt that goes across your chest and then around your waist. I'm
Looks
assuming.
like a crossing guard belt.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Like fucking crossing into a new universe to probe your butt. So an insignia of a bird was actually on the sleeve, like the images that she was kind of drawing. So that's pretty cool. Their hands had 3 digits. Later on the craft, they were gloved. So that when they got back on the spaceship, they're like, we have to put on our gloves, okay? Can't touch this disgusting human. They wore boot-like attire on their feet, and they floated rather than walking, which
Mhm.
sounds like fun. I would rather float than walk, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I feel like we'd probably end up all turning into like the humans from Wall-E, where we just got so fucking
Oh,
fat
yeah.
because we didn't do anything ever again. Like if we evolved to a point where it's like, okay, you're floating, but all of your nutrients are in capsule form, so you
Yeah.
don't have to eat anymore.
This shit is like kind of scary, but at the same time, like I want it to happen to me, because even I don't know if I really want it, but I kind of do. I don't want to be pro, but I want to meet an alien. I just don't want the frightening, scary experience that Barney and Betty Hill had, because that sounds fucking scary as shit.
To get up there and the aliens are like, we're gonna probe you, and I'm already flipped over and ready to go, and they're
Ready
like,
to
no,
go, like,
send this one
doggy.
back. They're too thirsty.
No, you're like Sid from Toy Story, how he sleeps with his fucking ass in the air.
God damn it. That was the joke, but you didn't have to go vivid with it.
Her paintings are strange. We're showing one where it's like very tall, white albino people, and then it's like her and these little grays, and this kind of like gray that's almost her size,
And then gray
there's
babies.
there's like little tiny weird little fucking gray men in different colors. It's like, for all the audio listeners, look up her paintings, because it's fucking kind of crazy. And if she believes she saw this shit, man, all the power to her. Because we'll get into it, when they started the hypnosis and the regression therapy, right? When it started coming to her mind, and because they did all these different sessions, she thought that she was insane. Like in her own mind, because now these memories are coming back, and she's like, this isn't plausible. How could this be real? And she starts slowly, like, she starts to realize that it's probably real. But at the beginning, when she starts having these memories brought to the forefront of her brain, it's crazy, because she starts thinking, she's like, am I insane? Like, how am I thinking? How do I have these memories?
I believe that she believes that it's real. And I definitely, so there's a reason why recovered memories are not allowed in courtrooms, is because A, very implausible, and B, it's been shown that the population of the percentage of the population that is extremely susceptible to hypnotic regression is also very susceptible to having memories implanted during hypnotic
I know,
regression.
I've heard that too. Eventually, like we'll get into, but Sirhan was super easily able to hypnotize, and that's the guy that shot RFK.
Yeah, that's
which
a
crazy.
I don't know, man.
case.
The MK Ultra shit is disturbingly plausible with the sheer number of just look
I
at the
know.
sheer number of psychoactive medications we have right now. And I'm not saying that
Crazy.
it's a fits all type scenario where it definitely won't work on the masses, not on
No.
that level, but for certain individuals who are already unstable or are found at key levels of life, key points of life, my God.
Yeah.
Then I
early.
think they could very well be hypnotized to carry out something with minimal memory and the proper drug regimen. I do think that that's possible.
Our brains are crazy. It is true.
Think of how many times you've gotten blackout drunk and you don't remember shit.
Plenty of times.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it'd be that fucking hard.
No, but that's why I like mushrooms, because I never forget those trips. They're always fun.
If you go on a hard enough trip, that shit'll fade quickly.
Really? I remember everything from all my trippy trips. I need to
look at the
dive
boy
back
with the
into a
golden
high
fucking
trip.
brain.
Yeah, until I break. I'm afraid sometimes. I'm like, hey, this is gonna kill me one day. My brain's just gonna fucking collapse and give up.
That is the fear of psychedelics, right? Is that one day you're just stuck like that?
Yeah, I had a buddy at work say that. He was like, I'm always afraid I'm gonna get stuck like that forever. And I'm like, yeah, you know how frightening that'd be? Like, no, thank you.
Well, there's always a point in an acid trip where you're like, okay, I'm done with this. This can end now whenever it's like, it's been going for a while now. And then you have that lingering thought, even for a moment. It's just like, am I just going to be like this now? Like, cause I don't really want to do that.
Betty thought that too. She's like, at first, this seems kind of fun. I'm like a little girl and there's some fun beings coming to help me out. And that's just like, no, this can end anytime soon. So Betty's initial fright was immediately calmed by an overpowering sense of friendship. We want to be your friends.
Oh, when friendly, how lovely.
When she displayed concern for her family's welfare, the creatures temporarily released her 11-year-old daughter, Becky, from this strange state of unawareness to assure Betty that she was all right. So this is crazy. It's the entire family then.
Hey, Betty, settle down, bitch. You're all right. Oh, thank God.
Because I thought that, and I think it's her daughter. Yeah, that was 11 or 12 at the time.
And her husband, like everybody was in that stasis field together.
But her father was there too, which is like the whole family.
Yeah. Did they live together? Like, was it an old school family structure where everybody lived together?
I looked pretty deep into this case, and they're like, YouTube has changed a lot, obviously, and there's not a lot of stuff on this case or videos of it. You smoking up a fucking other hit?
No, I'm blowing it out so I can pack up another one for a little bit. It's an alien episode. I'm getting stoned.
Yeah,
I almost took mushrooms. If I was in a better headspace and the snow hadn't got me all fucking blah, I almost pulled a Tom and took a P5.
I took a P4 before this.
Of course you did. I took some. Okay, so not to get too off topic. When I went to go see Godspeed You Black Emperor,
what? What'd you see?
Godspeed You Black Emperor. It's a post-rock, pretentious band.
Sounds weird.
They're great. I don't get it half the time. The visuals and the multimedia thing was cool, but not my exact cup of tea. But it was a fun show.
I don't know who that is.
I took three of the capsules, and yep,
had a fun
pretty
time.
Pretty good.
Yeah, we went to a Bond party. That's where I get off topic, and I dressed up like a Bond villain. And one of the dudes that Chelsea works with, he was like, I was like, yeah, we were smoking weed. I was like, yeah, I microdosed before this. And he's like, I don't mess with the microdoses. He's like, I chewed a bunch. And I was like, I'm not the only one. I was like, a P8 isn't really a microdose, and this kid was, you could tell by his pupils, he was zonked. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
And he's like, maybe doing mushrooms at a Christmas work party is not the greatest idea. And I was like, yeah, that's probably a fucking bad idea, especially if he did like 2 or 3 or 4 grams.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on a full 8th and having to deal with work people.
Oh, so crazy. I'm like, good for you though. Fucking, he's like, if I just leave all of a sudden, you'll know why. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
How are you doing, man? You guys ever stop to think that maybe if we just stopped thinking about ourselves as beings, we would cease to exist? all right, Phil, I'm gonna go over here and
Yeah,
have
it's
some-
like
get
what?
myself another drink. You enjoy your night, buddy. I'm gonna go.
So
Think about it, dude. Yeah, I will. I will. I will.
As the creatures released like her sister from this strange state of unawareness to assure Betty that she was all right. Then Betty was taken outside and brought aboard a small craft, resting on the side of a hill that sloped into the backyard. The small machine was about 20 feet in diameter. It looked like two saucers, one inverted on top of the other, as we have the little picture up top.
Uh-huh.
But it had a small structure on the top. The small craft accelerated and apparently merged with a larger parent craft in which Betty was subjected to the effects of strange equipment and a physical examination. It's always like, because they claim, and who knows if these beings, everyone thinks that these beings are positive creatures in some cases. And
I don't think everyone.
How do you
thinks that. I
know?
think a lot of people don't think that. I think a lot of people succumb to that very human paranoia where it's like, no, if they're here, they're probably evil. And that's probably the thing that one of the things that gets it all fucked up is that maybe a good portion of them are benevolent. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the reason why there have been certain small things that have prevented us from blowing ourselves to
Thumbs
fucking
up.
Kingdom
That's what
Come.
I always say. The missile silos being shut down and stuff like that. And it's happened numerous fucking times.
That one Russia, and not to take anything away from that fucking hero who decided to not launch the nukes when there was that training exercise that went, or that training exercise, the blip that went wrong in Russia. What if
blip?
that?
You talking about the missile that Ukraine fired at Poland and then blamed
No,
Russia
talking
for it?
way longer than that. And I think it might be a little more plausible that Russia just launched a missile.
No, it was Ukraine, and even my boss is Polish, and he was like, I think they did that shit on purpose.
Of course he did. Anyways, I've been watching a little bit of footage here and there from actual like people on the ground in Ukraine, and one of the funniest videos that I watched was a bunch of Russian soldiers getting hit by friendly fire because they grenaded a boat and were trying to get out of an area, and they got all fucked up.
Christ, man, I don't watch any of that shit.
Oh no, they didn't die.
I know it's all set up.
They didn't die. They just their boat. The one guy got hit, and it didn't show it. He's just like, oh, I got fucking shot, and then you just hear pink, 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 pink on the boat, and they're just driving off, and it's
the only Russian name I can think of is Vladimir. Vladimir, you fucking shot me, man.
they're all like, well, it's all translated, but they're all like, so obviously we can't be
cut me
certain
so
one way or
deep, man.
but they're all like fucking 16, 17-year-old dumb fucking
it's
kids.
Fucking crazy. The state of the world is a crazy place, and that's why we talk about fun things like alien abductions. Because you know what? I think there's a bunch of us that would love to be taken aboard a spacecraft and forget about this shitty planet that we live on.
What was the topic we were on though before you got into Ukraine and Poland? I had a point that I was trying to make.
Where are you though? The examinations. This idea that they're in obviously. How do you know if they're good or not? Because you don't really know. Like if they're I feel like they put you in one of those rooms probably that they show in like every alien movie, and you get like sprayed down. So your bacteria and your I feel like they would have to do that if they were an advanced race and they were trying to examine us. They would have to clean the subject of that they're
Only
going to.
if the grays are biological tissue. So if the grays aren't biological, then you would think theoretically germs would have no effect
Oh yeah,
on anything whatsoever. So you wouldn't have to do the whole like sanitize, like delousing type thing. But I was thinking like if they're, if they're coming down and visiting constantly, because there's the argument, it's like, well, if they're, the superior group of beings that have created humanity, essentially, why would they need to keep studying us? And it's like, maybe to just the same reason that you would have a farmer that periodically checks on its livestock. And it's like, oh, this is 5 generations down the line from the original cow. Let's call the vet and see how this one's doing. Like you're not necessarily doing genetic experiments on it, but if you had the technology, you probably would.
We think that they would get smarter, but they keep getting dumber. They have all this technology, but they don't seem to care about each other. Very true. So, and she's like, so obviously she's talking about a small craft that, like in most cases, flew up to a big mothership is what essentially she's describing. And then obviously, like, that's the whole idea that they're calming her and telling her it's going to be okay. And then they do a strange examination, a physical examination with the strange equipment she claimed. Then she was taken to an alien place and given a bizarre object lesson that caused her to undergo a painful yet aesthetic, religious-like experience.
Well, to connect it back to the religious, I know as though it's old hat at this point with, Ancient Aliens and everything and Graham
Yeah.
Hancock, but the no, it's okay, be calm is very, very reminiscent of the be not afraid from biblical texts when angels would visit people. And I know that that correlation has been made 1.5 million times over, but it really does, like, it adds to the whole layer of this that's like she was a devoutly religious person, so of course it's going to be interpreted in that regard.
I work with a dude that is super Christian. He always says that, he believes, because we talk about all sorts of conspiracy and weird stuff like that. And he believes like they're like demons. And I'm like, in my opinion, I'd be like, I believe that you only have the reference of demons through books like the Bible and all this stuff. So they're probably demons are more likely aliens than they would be demons, because we're getting the idea of alien, beings and creatures and entities from another existing reality. It's not like a demon, like, is that we're only getting that reference from ancient texts. But if these beings have existed before we even had any fucking scripture, then the demons are most likely aliens. It's not the other way around, which a lot of religious people point at. When I've posted stuff on TikTok about aliens, a lot of Christians come in and they're like, it's demons. It's like, is it though?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And my my dad's one pastor was very much a person of that same mindset. That's like, no, it's that old, like, oh no, anything that doesn't conform to our level of belief is clearly there to draw attention away from God, which is, just that old religious loophole where it's like, this doesn't fit to our structure, so it must be demons or heresy or this or that. And it's like, and which is a lot more likely, you're just fucking wrong. Because a book written by a bunch of shepherds and fucking people wandering around a couple thousand years ago doesn't mesh with modern knowledge and sensibility. Wow. Who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thought that shit? Then Betty was taken outside and brought aboard a small craft resting on the hillside. Fucking.
Would you say they caught her outside? How about that?
Yeah, that was a mistake. I didn't scroll far enough down. Later that night, at 10:40 p.m., Betty was returned home by two of her alien captors. At home, she found her family still in a state of suspended animation, which is crazy. Like, that's why I was wondering if it's like you're frozen and they can like look around, or is it like everything is stopped? Time is stopped, because time doesn't exist. A clock does, as my buddy David Icke would say. And so this idea that you could just they could just put people and just stop. Maybe like a dome, almost like you put like a dome over somebody, but it freezes everything in because the reality is not as real as
they
you
would
think it
be
is.
Unconscious during that time, that they wouldn't be aware, because that would probably scar them emotionally.
Yeah, so they don't want to do that. They want you to forget about all your problems with aliens. One of the being had stayed behind to watch over them during her absence. So he's like, hello, I haven't been here for a while. He's like drinking a coffee and shit, like looking at the time, be like,
my shift was supposed to end 20 minutes ago. Can we get on with this?
Yes, Jesus Christ.
I'm meeting Zaphod for Pangalactic Garble Blasters at o'clock.
Yeah, because you just have to stay there. He's like sitting on the couch playing with a fucking iPad or something like that.
Yeah, he's just scrolling space Twitter.
Yeah. Then the beings.
Can you believe that Elon said the word?
Then the beings
Uncool,
put
dude.
the family still under some type of mind control to bed, and then the aliens left. They to me, and what I think they they still in kind of this weird daze, kind of just walked towards their bed and then got in the bed like nothing has happened here.
Think about it. It's that post nap walk that you take when you accidentally fall asleep on the couch and you're like, oh, room, bed.
Yeah, I take a pee and then you're just fucking, you're barely have your eyes open. You're shuffling towards the fucking bed because they're, and I feel like that's what it would be like. And then the aliens left. We're like, all right.
That's prime toe stubbing hours right there is what that is. When you do that shuffle from the bathroom to your bedroom and you're like, if anything is in the way that wasn't there when I went to bed, I'm fucking hitting my foot on it.
Yeah, it's so true. Just fucking screaming. Yeah, it's like before we recorded this, I fucking spilled a huge glass of coffee everywhere.
Yeah, the audio recording was pretty great. You're just yelling near your phone like, I fucking spilled coffee. I'll be out in a minute.
Like Jesus. Several times the aliens had told Betty that that certain things that had been locked in her mind. She was instructed to forget them and her UFO experience until the appropriate time, or the
Would you s-
appointed time, but
Would you say
appropriate
that
time.
all the things that they said were running through her head?
All the
Running
things you
through her head?
said, all the things. I actually like that song.
I
This
was-
is an alien abduction. Stupid. She consciously remembered only fractions of her strange encounter: the power failure, the color light flashing through the window, and the aliens entering her house. Betty, a devout Christian, interpreted these creatures as religious or angelic in nature. The subject of UFOs was largely unknown to her. Her education had been limited to 10 years of schooling. Her basic interests include family, church, and community related activities. Not until much later in life that she thinks of her experiences as a possible UFO encounter.
So a
you're just like,
real woman of the world there with all of her life
100%.
experiences and grade 10 education.
Yeah, 100%. And this is in the 60s. So you think of the time era, like you get your basic education, you come in, you put on a fucking apron, and you make my fucking dinner. And if you don't make my dinner when I come home, you're going to show up the next day to work with fucking sunglasses. Oh, wait, you don't even go to work at this point in fucking society.
See, minus the domestic abuse thing, that's all I want. That's just a man to I'll walk around in an apron all day. It's fine.
So
I'll cook and clean
Yeah.
and watch the fur babies. I don't care.
So you
Make me a
just need
stay-at-home wife.
you just need to find a rich, like 50, 60-year-old dude that just wants to take care.
There are some fucking silver foxes out there that I would wait on hand and foot.
I'll
Write in a
take
Strange
care
Brew
of you,
podcast.
Anton. But you have to live in his sex dungeon.
I won't live in the sex dungeon, but I'll frequent it whenever you want.
Now you'll be what's her Christina Ricci from fucking Black Snake Moan, where they tie you to a radiator.
That was not a sex dungeon thing. That was the reverse. He was trying to get her to stop being a hoe.
Stop being a hoe. I'm gonna fucking tell.
Don't kink shame Sam Jackson. You're slut shaming.
Yeah, that's a fucking weird movie. So she remembers like just bits and pieces. She thinks that, of course, because what her brain would go to is you have to think, what's the most logical thing? Jesus came and visited me in the night. It's just like,
It's
angels.
Space Jesus. Is there a regular Jesus?
Space Jesus.
Space
And
Jesus.
it's fucking. So obviously she didn't know much about, the idea of aliens, UFOs. She is a basic housewife bitch, basic bitch housewife, because that's literally what she is in this time era. And
She was a product of her time. Let's not disparage who she might have been if she was in 2022.
yeah, crying over fucking Twitter and stuff like that, and making rude remarks to people that didn't get poisonous injections.
Or just being a well-rounded, cool human being that doesn't engage in bullshit on social media and happens to have
True.
good, nuanced views on things.
I'm glad that I don't have Twitter. So Anton runs the Twitter for Strange Brew, and he probably hasn't touched it in a while.
I've done some things on there.
Great. I don't even want to know.
No, you don't.
What have you done? Did you make it like super gay or something?
No, but I've definitely been liking a lot more ultra leftist tweets than you would normally like.
Don't do it, man.
I
Fuck
am
the
because
government.
it adds nuance. I was also talking mad shit to Rob Schneider.
Oh, I don't like that.
Yes, you do.
I don't like that. Don't use my Twitter for that shit. I like Rob Schneider. Don't use my Twitter for that. You got your own.
It is not your Twitter, Tom, as your own admission. It is the
Yes.
podcast Twitter, and I am one portion of the viewpoints. So I
If I
talk
want
a
to have
little.
Rob Schneider on, he's like, I look back to my tweets and your
Rob
account
Schneider.
fucking-
If Rob Schneider actually runs his Twitter, I would be shocked.
Yeah. I like Schneider. Fuck it. I like the hot dogs too.
I think Schneider is doing the same thing that a lot of washed up fucking celebrities did. And this is the only tweet that I really did send out at him, and it got a fair amount of likes. So thank you, people. Was the I love that conspiracy or celebrities when they've reached that washed up level where nobody's really hiring them anymore, hit that conspiracy, because then and I do believe this. I do believe that a lot of them understand the racket and don't actually believe the things that they're saying, but they do it because it's a new market and it brings them new revenue. I really do believe that.
Jamie Kennedy believes what he
Jamie
says.
Kennedy's a weird dude, and I respect Jamie Kennedy for being
I
a
love
weird
Jamie
dude.
Kennedy.
Yeah, no,
I sent him an email to see if he'd come on the show because
Jamie Kennedy doesn't seem to be, anti my people, doesn't seem to be anti-trans, doesn't seem to be anti.
He just doesn't like the government and the overreach of
doesn't
government,
like
so.
the government, and I'm fucking cool with that. I'm not cool with the surveillance state either, man. Come on the show.
In 1975, Betty responded to the local newspaper story about the UFO researcher Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And you know who that is, right?
I love J. Allen Hynek. Yeah, he's one of the big names.
Who was soliciting personal UFO experiences information from the public. So he's like shooting out a fucking a public forum thing to be like essentially through a newspaper. To be like, has anyone had these experiences? I don't know what he sounds like, but Betty's late.
Give him a more distinguished voice than that, shall we? Has anyone had these experiences? Please step forward so I, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, can document them. I think he's is he? No, he's not French. Who's the one that's French?
Jacques Vallée.
Jacques Vallée. Yes, thank you.
Which that will be. All this stuff leads up to other things we will touch upon. We talk about everything and anything strange. So the fact that we haven't touched upon aliens for probably 3 months almost. So we will be getting into huge cases. We've had lots of talks to discuss. Fuck, I'm blanking on his fucking stupid name. Never mind. God damn it. Fucking, I hate editing shit. I'll have to edit this out now.
This is a Sunday morning podcast.
Yeah. In 1975, Betty responded to a local newspaper story about UFO researcher Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was soliciting personal UFO experiences and the information inquiring about that from the public. And what would Jay say?
Please, anyone with any information or reports of strange encounters with extraterrestrial beings, step forward so I, the great Dr. J. Allen Hynek, he wouldn't say that about himself. Yeah. We're saying that about him. It's a little editorializing for you there, folks. Can document them and establish a better reasoning and understanding of this phenomenon.
Have you ever woken up after a long night not remembering anything, and you go for a poop and it kind of falls out a lot quicker than it usually does, and you feel like maybe you've been probed? Please contact me. Does it seem to just flow like a waterfall and have no actual push to it? Contact me now because you have maybe been raped by an alien. So Betty's letter contains such few data. Betty's letter contains such few data, however, that it was filed and forgotten until an investigation on January 1977. The investigation team consisted of solar physicist,
cringy ass bitch.
Yeah, it's pretty true.
We don't even need the button anymore. I'm just going to say it every time.
An electronics engineer, an aerospace engineer, telecommunications specialist, and a UFO investigator.
Now, them's some credentials.
That's a lot of people that dived into this case. So they employed the services of a professional hypnosis. Fucking Jesus Christ. They employed the services of a professional hypnotist and medical doctor trained in psychiatry. During a 12-month investigation, they conducted an extensive character reference check to the lie detector test, a psychiatric interview, and was 14 lengthy hypnotic regression sessions. But
say that 10 times fast.
Regression sessions. Unique New York. So 14 lengthy hypnotic regression sessions. That's a lot of regression sessions. Under hypnosis, Betty and her daughter revealed Under hypnosis, Betty and her daughter relived a consistent and detailed UFO experience with almost genuine, physiological reactions. So they could gauge this stuff. They took them through rigorous testing to prove that they were either telling the truth or lying.
They proved that they absolutely believe that they are
Yeah.
telling the truth. That's all that does, is it proves that you believe that you're telling the truth. That's why lie detector tests are fucking inadmissible in court.
Yeah, I agree. There was a 3-volume, 528-page report led to the conclusion that the witnesses were reliable and sane individuals who sincerely believed the experience they had occurred. All right. We're going to play a little clip of just so you can hear Betty's reaction. Remember, it is back in the 70s. It's not the greatest quality. And you can kind of understand what she's saying, but it shows the emotion behind her experience.
Betty Andreasson, reliving under hypnosis a medical exam that, well, I'm going to use the word allegedly occurred aboard a spacecraft. I might go a little step ahead before we play the tape. You see, the conclusion of the report has been that Betty and her daughter were both telling the truth. Something happened to them.
Yes, they both believe it happened to them. There's no doubt. Lie detector tests, very rigid character reference check, and a number of other things that we can go into later indicates that they're telling the truth as they know it to be.
Okay, once again, Betty Andreasson, under hypnosis, reliving that medical exam.
I was taking an instrument.
Oh, really?
That in my nose.
That's what the groan reminded me of.
I'm putting that thing in my nose and it's going up and it's breaking through something. I don't like it. Oh, and I can't move. It's hurting. Started pulling something, that needle again with a tube like on the end. They're pulling. Looks like he's pulling it. Oh, and he's opening up that shirt. He's gonna put that in my navel. Oh, I don't like this.
I don't like it either. Sounds like, and they were like, if you hear what she's saying, she's like, they're shoving something into her nose and she feels it break through something, is like what kind of she said. That's fucking frightening to have like shoved up your fucking nose.
Yeah.
And these people, okay, they believe that this experience happened. And then you have the idea, is this actually real? Was it actually aliens? Or was it the government putting these
secret experimentations?
Because you know what I mean? Like I do really want to believe in aliens and other dimensions. And I do, in my heart of hearts, I believe that this stuff is completely real and possible, especially when it comes to interdimensional beings, not extraterrestrials. But there's obviously the idea that the government could easily experiment on its own people, claiming and using technology that we don't know that they have, and then put it in using drugs and all this stuff to make them believe that they've seen something that maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
Just an idea. So the following are the extracted transcripts from Betty's hypnotic regression when Betty was regressed to her childhood during one of the first alien abduction experiences and her encounter with the being of light she refers to as the One. Are you ready, Anton?
Not Neo either.
Of course. All right. This is the following.
So what we're going to go into this, and Anton is going to be Betty, and I'm going to be.
No, that's not the voice I'm using.
Yeah, I'm going to be I'm going to be the hypnotist. So we're going to go back and forth and read through this entire transcript of what she went through with her first alien abduction. And there's lots of tapes. As we said, there's like 14 regressions that she did go through. And
right.
it is hard to find other than in her own books and stuff. So
all right, Tom's gonna put me under real quick now. He's playing the hypnotist. So Tom, take it away.
Stare at my pocket watch. Do you see my pocket watch?
I've never been good at being hypnotized. This isn't gonna.
All I know is that, like, look at the pocket watch. Time. You will go to sleep. I don't know why I always go like weird foreign, but you will slowly go to sleep. Chris Angel will steal your money from your back wallet. Your
This
back
angel
wallet.
will
That sounds like a
steal my
porn name.
money from my back wallet.
Back wallet. I don't even know what that is. Your
Back wallet, I don't even know what that is.
Okay, let's get into this.
Okay, let's get into this. We're coming up to this wall of glass and a big, 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 big door. It's made out of glass.
Does it have hinges?
No, it is so big, and there is. I can't explain it. It is door after door after door after door. He is stopping there
The alien
telling-
lending her.
telling me to
Alien
stop.
leading her. Jesus.
I'm just stopping there. He says, "Now you shall enter the door to see the one." And he says, "Fear not."
Then Betty appears to undergo an out-of-body experience.
And I'm standing there, and I'm coming out of myself. There's two of me. There's two of me there.
Are you looking at yourself?
Uh-huh.
Okay, do you see the one yet?
The one? No.
Okay, go on.
I'm coming up to the door, and the little person is saying, "Now you shall enter the great door and see the glory of the one." And I'm standing face to face with that door.
Betty now stood before a strange door. Again, she describes its appearance, and her out-of-body experience.
There's a big door there, and it is big, but it is strange. It is like deeper and deeper and deeper. It's bright, really bright. I have to stand before the door, but before that, I came out of myself. I was just standing over there, and I was standing over here. There were two of me, but that one over there was stiff.
She's talking about dicks during this whole time? It's big and stiff. Have you tried to talk to your other self?
That won't work because I'm over here, and that one is over there.
She looks exactly like you. Is she making motions to show you she is alive, like breathing and moving her arms?
No.
Would you say she looks like a wax museum piece or something?
No, it looks just like me.
All right, go on.
I was told to come forward. I went in the door, and it's very bright. I can't take you any further
Why?
because
What do you mean, because?
I can't take you past this door.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You go past the door alone, then for a few minutes. Okay? Time and time again, the hypnotist tried in different ways to induce Betty to tell him what was behind the door. All in vain. Sometimes, maybe, if you change your mind, would you tell me?
I can't change my mind. It is set.
What would happen to you if you did tell me?
I told you I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, let's proceed because this is getting me nowhere. To the first thing you can tell me. Fair enough?
Oh,
Betty's face glows with joy. What is happening now?
it's coming out of that door, and it was wonderful.
Did the one say something exciting?
I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
What would you say the one was God? Would you say the one was God?
Do you really know what God is?
I don't know. I was hoping that you had seen him and could therefore tell me.
I can't tell you about that.
Do you really know? Sorry, my bad. Okay, let's proceed. What's happening now? You just came out of the room and you feel great?
I come out of the door, and there is a tall, white-haired man standing there, and he's got on a long nightgown.
The next session took place on May 15th, 1980. Sorry, lost my place. And they find out, determined, they find out what lay behind the great door. The hypnotist again brought Betty back in time to where she was standing before it. Where are you? Where are you?
I'm before this huge, great big door. It's glass, layers and layers of glass.
What are you standing on?
Glass.
Nice. Let me ask you now. You're going to see the one, right?
Yeah,
Why are you going to see the one?
because it is time for me. They said for me to go home to see the one.
All right. In other words, does this imply that the one is someone that you have seen before?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you know why it is time to see the one? Why haven't you asked any questions?
They haven't been there very often. Those little people haven't been there very much for me to ask.
Yeah, but they're asking for you to do a lot of things, shall we say?
I know, but I'm in their place. I can't do anything.
Okay. In the moment, you're going to see the one, right? We don't want to waste the experience. We want you to get the most out of it. So when you see the one, I want you to ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? Why am I here? And what will this mean to me later on in my life? It's like any big experience a person is allowed to have, okay? I want you to progress to where the door is opened and you are seeing the one.
Oh!
At this moment, an indescribable smile came over Betty's face. The only adjective that the investigator could think of to describe its rapturous, it is rapturous? Jesus. The expression of pure, unrestricted happiness remained on Betty's face as the hypnotist continued to question her. So she is full on, like, we're showing a picture of her, way more happy in this. She is so happy. You seem happy. Why are you happy?
It's just. I just can't tell you about it.
All right. I know you can't tell me, but I want you to do a few things. I want you to ask yourself, why are you being shown that which you are being shown? In other words, you weren't given this trip just for a free ride, so to speak. They want you to see what you are seeing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now that you are there, ask yourself, what am I getting out of this? Why am I here? What am I supposed to think after I leave here?
Oh, it matters not what I get from it.
What do you mean?
It's. Words cannot explain it. It's wonderful. It's for everybody. I just can't tell you this.
You can't? Okay, but why can't you?
For one thing, it's too overwhelming, and it is indescribable. I just can't tell you. Besides, it's just impossible for me to tell you.
All right. Are you capable when you are looking around to tell yourself?
I see it.
Right. That which you can see, you have a grasp of even if you don't understand it?
I understand it. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. I wish I could share it with you.
To me, it seems like she literally cannot describe in our understanding of reality and what she is actually seeing to be able to even describe it to him, because it's like something that her brain can't process is what I'm taking from this. It definitely seems like that. So I understand. Oh, that's you. Right. That in which case you could, yeah. So now it's Anton's Betty. Right. That you can see it. You have a grasp even if you don't understand it.
You're repeating that. It's the next line.
You have to say, I understand.
No, we already did that one. You're the next line.
God damn it. I hate editing.
110 is the editing point in this.
Were you told not to share it with me?
It is like, even if I was able to speak it, I wouldn't be able to speak it. I can't. I'm sorry.
Were you specifically told not to speak it?
Partly, yeah.
How was it expressed to you?
I can't tell you those things. I'm sorry.
At this point, I would have punched her in the face. All right. Can we let the being speak through you? Suppose you just relax and I put my hand on your shoulder. With each number, you will go deeper and deeper. When I reach 3, you will just relax and allow the beings to speak through you. 1, 2, 3. Betty began speaking in strange tongue. Okay, Betty, can you explain to me so I could understand what you have just said? Betty begins crying.
Father loves the world so very much,
Yes?
and so many reject him.
Uh-huh. Okay. You said a lot of words. Can you explain more of what you said?
They will be felt by those who believe and have faith. They will feel the love radiating from them.
Okay. Well, where are you now?
I am where there is light.
And what do you see?
I cannot tell you this.
Okay, that's all right. Let me ask you, do you feel much love, the same love, or any different degree of love now that you have before?
It is a greater love.
Okay, will I understand all of the words that the being said through you?
When you allow the Spirit to come upon you, and you are filled with that love.
Okay, do you understand all the words that you have said?
I understand them, but they will not come forth.
Okay. I'm trying to understand. I'm not trying to ask you to divulge anything, all right? You understand them, but you can't express them?
They're in my heart.
More like a feeling than a concept?
They're in my heart, in my mind, and in my body.
Okay. Could you explain this to your children?
What children?
During this hypnotic session, Betty was regressed to a childhood experience when she was single with no children, which is crazy that your brain can do that. Like, this is real or not. If you have children someday, the words that you spoke while they had a message in love in them, do they also have a warning?
Yes. Those that do not have love have nothing. Love is the answer. Love is the law. Love under will. No, sorry, that was editorializing.
Yeah, love is the way. Love is the light. Love is what you make it. But the thing is, without love in our hearts, the world will be doomed forever. That's also what I said in my brain. So, all right. Again, fucking Jesus Christ. Again, the hypnotist failed to incite the information, and that he had sought regarding what Betty had experienced while behind the great door. With endless patience, he tried yet again. They're really trying to pull this "what happened after the door" shit. Okay, you've seen the one. Do you feel different about anything now that you did anything? You feel any different than you did before?
Everything is so wonderful.
Is there anybody that you don't like?
No.
There are some people, shall we say, that aren't as nice as other people, right?
No. Everybody is nice. They are just growing. That's all. If one doesn't understand another one, they are just growing. That's all.
Okay, just relax. You've been to see the one, and now everything is a little nicer, right?
I understand that everything is one.
What do you mean?
Everything fits together. Everything is one. It's beautiful, no matter what it is.
That's a weird experience. And there's tons of these regressions, and we want to go through the one that she experienced when she was a kid. But this idea that it's like they can't bring out this information. It's just like the aliens blocked her mind or something.
Think of the most profound psychedelic experience, and this isn't just for you, Mushroom Kingdom
yeah.
over there, but think of the most profound psychedelic experience that our listeners have had, and anybody that's broken through, if you will, to any other plane of existence.
Yeah.
Try to just like you've taken whatever your psychedelics are, you've gotten the right set and setting, and you've had that epiphany that you've been looking for. then when you come down, try explaining that epiphany to another person.
Oh,
And
100%.
they will just
It's
look at you
impossible.
because that is not for them. That is for you.
Yeah. 100%. All right. 2-minute piss break because I have to pee. I'll edit this from the main video, but Twitch, you get shit raw cuts. Literally, I just gotta pee, and then we'll get back to bringing this to a fun close. All right, back to it. Drinking a beer at fucking 11 o'clock is not a great idea. All right. Betty's description under hypnosis of her experience of the one in the preceding page is intensely recognizable as the same type of experience reported by many experiencers, which many people have had this idea of going through this door, through this hallway, through many doors, into this light, which to someone who is religious, I can't hear you.
That's the comparison that people have made to NDEs. So that's
Yeah.
the most common thing besides
Oh,
psychedelic,
yeah.
but that's
Near
always
death
compared as
experiences.
well. Yeah, it's near the near death experiences. But
But
that's
if you-
always the thing that's like the most profound amongst people that have had those experiences, is that it's that great oneness and the interconnectivity and the overwhelming feeling of peace and everything like that. But alternatively, there
100%.
are flip sides to that. If we're going by like unsolved mysteries and old shit back in the day, where it was people that would, you know, be like, I was surrounded by demons. It's like, yeah, it sounds like you have some heavy shit on your fucking head, dude.
Yeah, no, 100%, because that's possible. But it happens when you do the experiences a lot. And obviously, if you are someone who is religious and seeing this idea of like light and going through these doors in this white hallway, which might just be an advanced spaceship, but in your head, because you're religious, you would take it as some sort of spiritual experience with God or Jesus. Like, especially if you see some guy in fucking robes with long hair and be like, that's definitely Jesus.
Well, yeah, the white Jesus fucking thing, you know, of course.
Especially in this story, it's like some sort of albino Jesus, like albino Jesus is, because it's like if you see your paintings, it's like these very like
Well, those are the
albino white people.
yeah, they're the Nords, the Nordic.
Yeah.
But see, therein is my problem with a lot of this shit, is that goes into the root races of man theory, which is
Yes,
very problematic.
100%. Which will come down the road. We've discussed obviously revisiting Crowley for a very extensive deep dive into him, but
Did you ever hear the one interview that Zach Wild? You know who Zach Wild is, right?
no.
Ozzy's current or more recent guitar player.
Okay.
Okay. He was at, I believe, some bookshop in England somewhere, and he found a painting of Crowley behind the wall, and he was like,
Weird.
how much for that? And they're like $6.66. He's like, here's $7, keep the change. And then he goes and he hangs it up in one of Ozzy's studios, where there's like a picture of like Hendrix and a picture of like Mick
The
Jagger
grave.
or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. And then Ozzy's going around and he's just like, oh yeah, Hendrix. He's like, we saw him play it, blah 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 blah. Like, oh, Mick Jagger, you know, we did this thing and it blah blah blah. And then he gets to the Crowley picture. And he goes, "Who the hell's that fat cunt?"
That's what they call him.
And Zach's like, "Ozzy, you have a song about him." What? Oh, and he goes through this whole big thing, and Ozzy's just not figuring out.
Mr. Crowley, bro.
He's
Made
not
his
figuring
name, not Crowley, but Crowley.
It's not connecting. It's not clicking. And he's like, that's Aleister Crowley. And Ozzy goes, "Oh, is that what he looks like?"
That's fucking funny. Because according to my brother revisiting the episodes, me and Billy did argue a bunch on the Aleister Crowley episode, which probably happened a lot back then because in the amount we were drinking. But
I'll jump on to defend the old power bottom, the great beast himself.
Because I think the idea is to do a big one. We've had lots of them works because this also does relate to the whole idea that Crowley believed and he saw what's that being
Lamb and Aiwas.
Aowas, yeah.
Aowas.
That like alien creature he saw, and then the idea of Madame Blavatsky with these root races of men being a bunch of white dudes that are like Nordic beings. So, and it relates
Crowley
to this.
shit. So Crowley shit is very problematic in that Crowley shit is also extremely anti-Semitic, and it doesn't need to be, but it is. But that's to me, that is the problem with the root races of man. And so much of that is just spoiled fucking rich kids, both Blavatsky and Crowley themselves,
100%.
Going on these worldwide tours, taking all of this ancient information and doing what all Western occultists do and going buffet style on it and just being like, I'm going to pick this and I'm going to pick this and I'm going to pick this. And you know what?
And a lot of religions are created that way.
Well, that's how a lot of, newer religions and subsects of existing religions are created that way. But, as a chaos magician, I saw a meme that accurately sums it up the other day, and I really loved it. And it was just the thing like, are you telling me that throwing dynamite at it is effective? It's like, hey, if it works.
There's a lot of stuff that we're going to dive into, but like this experience is crazy. And this idea that like it's such in our pop culture, even the idea of people being abducted by aliens, it's in fucking movies. And it's to her, like what she describes it as is like very same as almost identical to the experience that people have near-death experiences. And obviously other people that have been abducted by aliens. It's very basic kind of spiritual experience, which also consists of reports throughout history by like saints. Like it's consistently reported
the
by
out-of-body shamanic experience, whether it be interpreted through traditional Christian or Islamic or Judaic or any of the Abrahamic faiths, or it be interpreted through pagan or more earth-based spirituality.
Saints, mystics, all these people that claim to have seen the first, like to see back in the day, like this experience of seeing light and doors and how
the transcendence.
She shares the same experience, and then you have to think like, I don't like to be skeptic. I love believing in the fantastical, but you have this idea of people seeing these imagery and thinking about reading a book like the Bible or some sort of religious book where they describe these experiences. And then, I don't know, something happens and your brain breaks. And then you think that you've been abducted by aliens because these memories get brought to the forefront. And this one, I'm not saying that because the fact that her sister remembers the exact same experience of everyone being frozen in animation and then like her leaving and getting aboard a craft, and
which is crazy because like we were saying before, you would think that in putting people in stasis in that form, you would want them to be as unconscious as possible so as to not inflict trauma on them.
Yeah.
If that's not the goal.
Awoken her sister so she could be like, because everyone.
So then is that the only memory that her sister has? Is that one split second where she's removed from stasis and she's like, what the fuck? And then they put her back in, and it's just that little snippet is what she remembers?
I think she remembers more of like what happened, her sister leaving, according to what I've researched. Which is it's a strange idea, right? That like when she's panicking after this, everyone's frozen. They bring her out of it because for some reason she's the important one, which always makes me think: are they like because she's what? I think she's like she's married by now, and she must be like I feel like she's got to be in her like 20s because her sister is 11. Which is weird. It's like they're all living together under this. I try to look deeper into this stuff too, and it's just like other than like she has tons of books about this stuff too.
They have a close family. It's not anything that really is like too outside of the realm of possibility, especially at that point in time. If it's the 60s, I mean, a lot of families just lived together. Like, you weren't
Yeah.
putting grandma in a home at that point in time. Grandma was living with you, and it was more like certain Asiatic cultures that just actually take care of the generations versus, shuffle them off because you live in an extraordinarily insane capitalistic society where making money is your only fucking goal. Excuse me, sorry, that was my rant.
But even if we end up diving back into this when we do a full-on huge episode about alien abductions, which Aaron wants to do, is just go in like we did for Dahmer.
Just do 4 hours on every random abduction. Yeah, I'm fucking so in for that. Let's go.
We could just talk, right? Because she has tons of books, and I'd be interested in reading her books. Because honestly, even Googling her name, and I'm scrolling through Google, it is a lot of just promoting her. Like, it's like books, tons of books about her, right? Because most of it says she had this crazy religious experience, and we'll get into a little bit more as we go through this. But it's fucking strange that she experienced this when she was younger, and yeah, it's just a weird.
Well, and that it correlates so well with other abduction experiences and other religious experiences that it follows the same rhyme scheme. Obviously, there's differences and variations in that story itself, but it's very formulaic of this is what happens when somebody has an out-of-body experience and it involves some sort of spiritual or extraterrestrial encounter.
Well, that's what I always try to say is that, like, my whole thing, I've heard this millions of times, right? But if I experience something, I would want someone to believe me. You know what I mean? That so when these people come out and they're credible and sane, then it's just like, well, I tend to believe them because I've had my own fucking weird ass experiences and I believe them to be completely real. So I'd want to have someone I want to do the same for somebody else.
You want the validation, of course, but at the same time, you also there is something to be said that you can't just turn off the skeptical brain. Now, you shouldn't be dismissive, and you should be welcoming and accepting of people that come forward with these things and hear them out. But obviously, some people do it for attention. Some people do it because they think they're going to get famous. Some people do it because they probably think they're going to get laid. Like, people have all different reasons for saying and doing things. But the other thing is too, is that the human experience and those experiences shouldn't be discounted as outright false because, like we were saying, those people believe that happened to them. And who are we to say that it didn't?
And my thing too, with even all her paintings and the artwork that she's done to describe her experiences, is that if she's making this up, man, her imagination is incredible.
Yeah. If she's making it up, her imagination is pretty solid. Hey, look, it's Dr. Zoidberg.
Yeah, that's what it kind of looks like.
And the other one's just picking strawberries.
There's some fucking
that one. He picking strawberries. Put them in a little basket.
I would love to actually get one of her books, even just the book of her art, and just like flipping through it, because it's pretty crazy that she drew tons of stuff. So Betty does believe in God very strongly, being a devout Christian, yet strikingly difference between her experience and the near-death experiences is that she was escorted to not to like dead nearby, like dead relatives or Christian spiritual figures, so I got something to say about this. So if you see supposedly what I've read and learned about, and Chelsea's mom also going to psychics a bunch of times in her life, is that when you're dying, and a lot of people experience this, Chelsea's grandfathers did, of you start seeing people that have passed. Right? Your sister comes to get you. A family member usually will come to get you to bring you to the other side of the spiritual existence beyond physical vessels, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the idea, supposedly, that you see religious deities is the reptilians taking you and using you for their own, to exhume your energy, to take your energy from you in those moments of death, because those deities shouldn't exist the way you think they do on a spiritual level. Like if you see like Jesus coming to get you, I would rather go with a family member than some archetypic person that we've been pushing our pop culture. Like, you know what I mean? Do you understand where I'm going with this?
I get that in like Christians and stuff say that like when you see the face of God, you will recognize it immediately, kind of like you've known it the whole time. Which
Brad Pitt.
Which there is something to be said for anyone that's done DMT in any even small capacities, where it's like the feeling that you get is I've been here before.
That's weird. My buddy's done DMT, and he said, I was like, did you see beings and shit? And he's like, yeah. Like he said, I saw some weird beings I cannot explain.
Like I said, I've only done it twice, and the one time I
wanna try it.
I got close to breaking through, but I had a thought, because like I took a big old fucking draw of it, and I laid down on my bed, and my two friends were there with me, and I looked up, and all I saw was like the traditional image of heaven, like
That's
Golden
weird.
Gate, clouds, and the only feeling I felt was just this overwhelming sense of love and happiness. And I was moving up and I was going towards it, and I was like, wow. And then I had the thought, and I was like, I can't die right now. My friends are literally sitting right next to me, and that would fuck them up. And then I like snapped back to it immediately.
Yeah. Because
And
I
it,
feel
like-
like I've done that with even trying to astral project, is that I feel my body like vibrating and like that I can do it. And like I get close, and I've done it before. I've got like I used to do this stuff when I was like teenager tons of trying to astral project, and because I started reading into all this stuff, aliens and fucking UFO encounters, and watching all these videos, hours of videos I spent when I was 16, 17, 18, watching videos of alien abductees talking. And every time I would scare myself, I would like snap out of it and be like, fuck, like, yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm scared to leave my body.
You can't, that's the thing, is I feel like you have to be willing to let go. You
I
have to be
wanna do it
willing
on
to take
mushrooms. I
that
think I could.
chance of being like, if I leave and I don't come back, maybe that's this.
Yeah.
But then you always come back, because I've let
I'm
go
gonna-
in other
yeah.
positions before on other psychedelic experiences, and I was just like, I'm letting go. I'm
Yeah.
severing my ties, and then you just walk, and then eventually you get to the point where you're like, I'm back.
I want to try doing it. I'm going to lead myself up to doing higher doses to see if I can reach some sort of state of consciousness that we're only allowed to tap into if you're a monk and do this in your entire life, or you tap into it using like psychedelics, like magic mushrooms. And the idea, like just even this, that Paul Stamets, when he found the mushrooms, they found a bunch, and to get as high as he needed to, he ate 20 grams. And it was equivalent to like 10, but he sat there at 20 grams. I would be throwing up. It'd be crazy. And the fact that I just want to do it once in my life is reach that point of like 7-8 grams, have that crazy experience, and then go down back to lighter amounts.
I can't wait for the show after that, because you're going to come out in like a button-down shirt and a tie, and you're going to be like, I'm going into accounting. This is the last episode ever. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
it.
so
That's
crazy.
all we'll ever hear from you ever again.
Like I feel like your brain will change forever. So she believes that obviously that it was somewhat like a near-death experience, and often people say like dead relatives, Christian spiritual figures, or any religious figures. But by small gray bug-eyed aliens is something a little different. When you're like you think that you're dying, or you have that weird near-death experience. Yet at the end of the first event, which occurred when she was only 13 years old, I knew that she started having experiences when she was younger, and then it just happened more often. So she was the one that they were kind of targeting. And these appeared figures of different types, a number of entities who were human looking, except for their size of shoes. Being about 7 feet tall, they were dressed in long white robes, had pale skin, and hair blonde to white. And I'm trying to think, what is the shoe thing about? Is it like, do they have massive fucking feet? Maybe it looks like this in her painting. They have pretty big feet.
Maybe that's the bounce hover thing, the shoes.
So they have clown feet. They're wearing fucking clown shoes everywhere.
They're all secretly Sideshow Bob.
Yeah. Or they're Carrot Top. It's like a fucking white-haired Carrot Top, his massive feet, and his fucking, or even the stranger of the two, would a very tall person to have tiny little baby feet.
Do you know apparently George Carlin was a fan of Carrot Top?
Really? I like George
Apparently
Carlin.
so. Apparently George Carlin was a big Carrot Top fan.
Carrot Top's a weird fucking dude, and he looks frightening. He looks frightening. I wouldn't, if I saw a guy walking down an alleyway, I would be running the other direction. In a word, they looked exactly like the Christian image of angels, except they had no wings. Betty called these beings the elders. After the Christian term used, especially in the Bible, the book of Revelations, denoting that the angelic beings surrounding the throne of God. Note, experiencers have also reported being brought before a council of elders to have a life review.
Similar to the weighing your heart in judgment, like the Egyptians talked about.
But yeah, if I
Which
got
to me that only serves to keep
all these aliens, man.
I don't know, man. To me, like, other than the moral things of, don't fucking screw over your neighbor, don't hurt somebody senselessly, don't do this and that. I
Yeah.
really don't think there are too many things that are like I agree with Betty in that it's like people are growing.
No,
You
I
know,
agree, and everyone, I shut out that book of the Law of One. And Anton, I think you would like this book. It is very interesting, and they talk about this idea of that we are just here to grow and to learn from this
I like
physical experience on the third realm.
I'd like to believe that, but I also understand and recognize that, at least to my knowledge, I've never encountered a person that we would regard as true evil. Like, I've never met
Yeah.
somebody who only exists in a predatory sense to harm somebody else.
Well, and in the book, right, they talk about someone like a character like Hitler, a very evil, crazy,
I do agree that
psychotic.
Hitler was evil and psychotic and one of the worst things to ever happen to this planet. But I, like every other villain on the planet, I don't believe that he saw himself that way. He saw himself
No.
as a savior and as a righteous gallant crusader. And to me, that's when the most horrific things occur in human
Yeah,
history.
it's
Is when
ego,
somebody
too.
believes that they are doing the
God's work.
good, the
Yeah.
supreme good. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you are willing to do the most horrific and evil and awful things that a person is capable of if you think that you are infallible. If you believe that you are infallible
Yeah.
and your philosophy is the only one that's correct, then you are dangerous.
That is 100% true. And they have that idea in that book about people like him and these villains throughout history that are actually playing specific roles in our existence to teach us lessons. And to me, if that exists and we reincarnate and there is duality in other realities above us and below us, or whatever you want to say, in other versions of what reality is, it makes sense to me that this is all about a lesson. And then you evolve to a better, higher dimension that doesn't have things like war and poverty, because you're here to learn lessons. And then, so this idea that they said that they have to take a soul like Hitler's or some of these evil people that have existed in our time, and they take longer to essentially come back and reincarnate because they have to like build them back up in the spirit world, because their karmatic impact on a reality is far greater than most people's. So you kind of have to wash and cleanse that from that being. So they just go back into it fresh, essentially.
I have a similar idea. It's not something that I would say that I believe. It's just an idea that I
Yeah.
like to toss around in my head, and sometimes, it brings me comfort to think that way. Is that people like that, I would like to believe, are reincarnated as like a tree that
Yeah.
lives for hundreds of years, and the
Yeah.
only thing you get to do is observe.
Yeah.
Like, all you have is
Yeah.
time to think. Like, I don't know, it's goofy, but like, what if trees, have a language that we don't understand because their longevity is so long that a single letter takes 3 days to come out.
No, yeah,
Like the groans of a tree in the wind and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, or,
Yeah.
the how some of the forests, like Paul's statement says, like the fungus systems that interconnect everything
crazy.
in the
Yeah.
rainforest and other forests and in just regular tepid forests and everything like that too. Like, that's what if that's the neuro pathway of like that portion of the earth? And like,
And
it's
that you
just,
reincarnate as something as an observer. I would always think like because like the Indians believe is this idea that like you fuck up, man, you're coming back as somebody's butt plug. Like you're gonna come back as like the worst thing in the world. Okay, having a butt plug is to people is not the worst thing. It feels probably good for some people, right? But this idea to be the actual butt plug inside of an anus cavity wouldn't be a fun existence. Is that too weird? Okay, or a rat. You could come back as a rat and you have to live in the fucking New York City sewers.
I feel like those rats are the happiest rats. Those rats get fucking huge.
Just saw Anton's face during my butt plug fucking.
Yeah, because you come back as a fucking synthetic
yeah, I know. It just doesn't make
silicon molecule melted down and then thrown into a mold.
Everything has energy.
At least mine is an
you put
organic
poison.
matter.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't mean to invalidate
Doesn't
your
it
theory,
come
but it
from
seems a
the
little
earth,
crackpot
though?
to
Everything
me.
is made somewhat
No,
from
most
the
of
earth.
those are synthesized from multiple things from the earth. Yes, which is a shadow of the true self exists in the current self, I guess, but I'm not poo-pooing your theory here. I'm just saying it may
was
seem a little
just a weird
far-fetched.
thought. Well, I'm really stoned thinking about this strange episode that we're doing. So
And no,
you're
poo-poo is
brought
not a butt plug joke either, so that was
poo.
accidental. Yeah.
She gets brought before these council of elders to review your life, which I feel like we kind of just discussed is that like
You
we're here to
stole
learn.
that Milky Way in 4th grade.
It's like fuck off. I
felt bad about it for 3 years afterwards. Well, I guess you've been punished enough.
And then you got people in power that are like there for like months, be like going through the list. Like it's like a guy comes out like some sort of little baby alien, and then they pull out this big ass scroll and it just drops to the ground and fucking leads into the next room.
It just doesn't stop rolling
forever. Like,
we have to wait for it to fully unfurl before the words will appear.
Great.
We've been here for 3 days. My God.
3
You know what?
days.
We're not even going to read this. Just get out.
Just get out. We're going to put you...
You will be one of those tube worms at the bottom of the ocean for the next 1,000 years, you piece of shit.
Yeah, because think about even like the things that reincarnate worms, like because energy exists, and this is what I believe. People might think it's fucking crazy, but like that everything has an energy towards it. Mother Earth is supposedly a spiritual being, and then once you get high, Gaia, Mother Gaia, if you get high enough on the spiritual evolution, you can become a planet if you want to. And so, according to all the crazy wacky shit I've read,
Mormon.
No, I don't know. I would like to talk about the Mormons because I know bits and pieces, but I want to dive deep into their crevices because they're a fucking strange bunch of people.
Yeah, let's go after Mormonism and Scientology all at once and just get murdered.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun. Like the fact that Aaron is reading all the Scientology books are making me kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, it's fucked, man. He's like, I didn't know how crazy it was. I was like, oh yeah, it's fucking crazy. It's crazy, all right. And I'm sure that's gonna be like I told him, I was like, if we do this, that's like a 4.5 hour episode.
What was it that Jack Black said?
Dianetics Jr. much better than Krishna.
So after some 3 decades of further experiences, reported in a total of 4 books, that's why like part of me wants to kind of dive into her books a bit, by researcher Raymond Fowler. And that audio clip that we played in the beginning, that was Raymond Fowler talking about him being connected to Betty. There came a point.
Like you could probably just figure out which one is the best, most inclusive book and read that one. I feel like a lot of them are going to repeat themselves.
For sure. I read a review on one of her books and it seemed like people enjoyed it. So, but
cool.
There came a point when the elders seemed to be completely taken over Betty's encounters. Like first it's the Greys, which that's why we have a debate. Are some of them good or some of them bad? Did some of them break off from the reptilian experiment that they may have become to be an interface for us? And there's all this ideas that there's Greys that are like essentially animatronic robots that have the hive mind that the reptilians kind of take over. And then there's the idea that there's also beings that are taken from the androids are like the Grey's DNA, kind of, so to speak.
Are you saying the reptilians would be the non-rebellious angels in this instance?
So what do you mean? Because they're using.
Let's use it as allegory because Betty believed it to be. She was a devout Christian woman. So by what you've just said, the Greys would be the rebellious angels that followed Lucifer down. And the reptilians would be the loyalist angels that stayed in heaven with the demiurge.
See, that kind of makes sense though too. But and I was trying to say too, also there is the idea that there is Greys that like kind of broke off and was like, we don't want to fucking do this anymore. And they kind of became their own thing and now they're warring with the reptilians, but it kind of would make sense because I do believe if you read between the lines of the Bible, there's probably a lot of truth, but it's all about how they're phrasing it because people maybe didn't understand what they were being told and stuff like that. Like I think it's all about aliens and people don't even know.
Well, that's sci-fi Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Like what we've the so theory that we've just described is just the theory of the Gnostics, but with a sci-fi twist added to it to make it aliens instead of.
And honestly, if you want to believe in Jesus, if you want to believe in space Jesus, if you want to believe in anything, I'm all down for it. If it makes you happy,
it makes you a better if it makes you happy. If it makes you a better person, I'm fine with it. If it makes you a shittier person, maybe fucking reevaluate your life.
Yeah, because there's issues with I always mention them, but the West Baptist Church. I got issues with you motherfuckers, but you guys are fucking nuts. The earlier Anton shaking his head.
Speaking of, I guess Kevin Smith is making Red State 2.
Oh my God, that's fucking crazy.
Or Tusk
So
2. He's
if you
making a
don't know
sequel
about
to
the
one of
West
the good
Baptist
movies.
Church, just look it up. They protest people's funerals and like
If you're
soldiers'
listening to this
funerals
show and you don't know who the WBC is, are you 16? Like, who
it's
are you?
so crazy with the things that they do, and they like protest movies that have nothing to do with them. I think they even protested Dogma by Kevin Smith.
They
So
did.
it's just
So
like-
they protested Dogma, and Kevin Smith joined them
Oh yeah, I
and
remember
got
that.
on
Yeah.
TV.
So fucking.
He's like, everyone's saying it's
genius.
blasphemous, so I guess, we're out here going to stop that.
So
it's like-
genius that he did that. The funniest shit.
Remember when
ever.
Kevin Smith was good?
I know. The earlier events, including her first experience of the one, took place in mysterious locations which seemed to be underground or else on or near the surface of the earth, so kind of around this area. But now, as a report in the last Fowler's books, The Watchers 2, exploring UFOs and near-death experiences, the small grays came again for Betty in a saucer. For the first time, took her into outer space where a small craft docked with a huge cylindrical mothership. This was the domain of the elders, who apparently commanded the Greys in a symbolic relationship. Or symbiotic. Jesus Christ, man. So can't smoke weed on episodes. It never turns out well. This symbiotic relationship. So how would you describe like a relationship like that you would think with these elders and the Greys?
Well, if it's a symbiotic, then it's a one hand washes the other relationship. So the Greys
One hand washes the other. I
Yeah,
just came on my hand. Can you wash it off?
The Greys are carrying out certain tasks for the Elders, and the Elders are either providing for or protecting the Greys or something.
Housing them, giving them
A symbiotic
food,
would be like
shelter.
hippos and those birds that live on hippos that I can't remember the words for that eat
that
the
makes
bugs
so
off
much
of
sense.
them.
Like the first or second time me and Chelsea did mushrooms, we decided to put on a nature documentary. Fucking great idea.
Symbiotic is to parasitic as hot is to cold. So
Like
parasitic is when you have like a worm that's living in your guts that's eating all of your nutrients and you're getting none of it.
So much
And
sense.
a symbiotic would be like if you had the worms that were in Fry from that episode of Futurama, where
And
when
he
you get a
makes
mortal
them
wound, they just
better.
rebuild you and it makes you smarter. Yes, that's the difference.
And we watched this nature documentary, and they had like the whale where the other fish eat the stuff off the whale. And I did not like watching that
it's
when I was on
lampreys, but there's one that stays with sharks as well. That
and
whenever
it
a shark eats
cleans,
something,
it
it
eats
just
off the stuff that they like kind of stick on their body.
barnacles, any of the floating particles that stick to it. Yes.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
Nature is a fucking wild thing, and when you watch on mushrooms, it changes your life. A lot
That's
of the first
best thing to do is
a
just
lot of the
watch
first
nature shit on
mushroom
mushrooms. You're
trips
like,
I ever had was watching almost the first 2 or 3 times that me and Chelsea did mushrooms together. We just watched nature documentaries and shit.
yeah,
because
especially in high def where you're like,
whoa, like so crazy. Like what the fuck is happening in the world? This is the earth that we live in.
that shit will bring you to tears in certain aspects. Like you will weep like you just saw the face of God.
Oh, when they like throw things off cliffs and shit for some reason. Like
no, I'm not talking about sad. I'm talking about like
Oh.
when you have that profound vision where you're just like, it's okay as long as this keeps going. It's okay. Like you just
man.
that comprehension of insignificance and interconnectivity, like that Zen moment where you reach it and you're like, it's okay. Everything is just
But
okay.
I've watched some shit where it's like the wolves, they're like falling down the cliff, or like even when the goats, you know, the goats climb up.
The cheetah or the snow leopard just pounces on a gazelle or a goat as it's walking up the thing, and then it tumbles down, and at the end, the leopard just gets up and drags it off, and you're like, yo.
What the fuck? That's nature's hardcore.
There's a great subreddit called Nature is Metal, and it's just the most brutal nature shit you'll ever see. Like if you're looking for something that you're like, nature is fucking brutal.
Nature is metal, and it's supposedly created by aliens that fly random metal crafts. So that's how we're going to relate this.
Seeded by aliens. I don't think it was created.
Yes. Seeded, yes, I agree. Like birds, like the blue avian race that good old Corey Good talks about, and my homie David Wilcock.
I like the panspermia concept, which is
sperm. You come into like a frying pan and cook it.
Dead civilizations, birth new civilizations.
Yeah.
So like you send your planet is dying and you send out like a comet or something that has a bunch of spores on it that you send it to a new planet that can seed life or can hold life, but it doesn't have life yet. So you're like, maybe if we send all this shit over here, new life will spring.
That's a cool concept.
It's not mine. That's old as fuck.
Yeah.
In the next Del Toro episode you see in the
that's interesting.
They'll talk about it.
Oh, and the one where the thing fell, the guy's like the meteorite crashes to the ground. that episode's fucked too. And like for the people who haven't checked it out, watch it. It's all these different little series and coming from Guillermo del
It's Guillermo del
Toro's
Toro. You fuck
his
if you don't like
mind.
it, then fuck you. No.
And that the idea, then the alien attaches like inside the person's being.
Oh,
like,
shut up! Don't fucking say anything about any of the
It's
episodes. You're gonna
so
spoil it for people. But
scary.
I know which one you're talking about. I'm not
Yeah.
even gonna mention it. And that one's fantastic.
It's so scary, that idea. Chelsea was like, "Ugh," and I was like, yeah, it's fucking like this. And I was like, that's how aliens could
That's
exist.
this one. It's this story. Color of Space.
Color of Space also did.
It's similar.
That's
Same thing with
super into
the one man show version of Color Out of Space is Meteor Shit from Creepshow.
I have to rewatch Color of Space without Chelsea, because I watched it. I was like, Juan and Anton love this shit. And then I went into it and I was like, this is a weird film. Like, I don't know if it's Nicolas Cage or the way, like, I don't know what it is. Maybe
Reread
Chelsea's
this.
programmed me.
Reread the story, The Color Out of Space. Honestly, like the more I watch it, the more I love it. But I'm also like, I wonder what this would be like without Nicolas Cage.
I have like all these Lovecraft books I want to get into. I have a huge, massive
They're short
like,
stories, dude. It'll take you an
thick-ass book.
hour at the
I
most to
know.
read Color Out of Space. Just get it. Just get
Thick
into it.
ass, I have a thick ass book about Crowley. There's a lot of stuff coming that I want to obviously just really prep myself up for and read into, because there's a lot of fun combos coming on this podcast. So they have this like symbiotic relationship with the Greys. So obviously we did like how they kind of like they either like feed them or house them or help them in some sort of way, and then they kind of do something for them, which is a lot of like what we do in this society with people. So I think that's a fair statement to say. If someone's doing something for you, you always do something for them. Is that
One hand washes the other, but you
Yeah.
made a joke about jizzing in a hand and rubbing them together.
This journey climaxed for Betty in another ecstatic experience of one of the one. Through this time, the events leading up to it were very different. Betty asked why she was here with the elders, and they said, "Do you remember your blessing?" She did not know what they were talking about. In response, they used a machine to show her a scene from her earlier life. It was a church service, and this is what happened. Betty stood up and gave testimony and pledged to use her talents for the glory of God. This is probably not unusual for this type of service, but then the minister suddenly began speaking in tongues.
Really, actually, I can't even do it. So truly speaking in
Yeah.
tongues, actual, like according to, if you talk to biblical scholars, what speaking in tongues actually is the ability to speak a language that you've never
Like
taken
Latin or something, or
anything that is beyond your knowledge. So like if you or I just started speaking Swahili out of nowhere and didn't even know we were doing it, we were just speaking and our message went out and translated to all of the other ears, that is speaking in tongues. Speaking in tongues of what most American religious people talk about is just having a seizure on the ground.
Yeah.
Going,
That
like,
shit
that
is
dumb
fucking crazy, dude.
No,
and I know Billy wants to do a full deep dive eventually, even for the Patreon, to like a Stranger Danger episode about religion. And the idea of like when you see those like pastors are like, it's like they push all the crowds, everyone falls over because the Spirit of God, you will now fear Jesus, feel Jesus, and it's just like crazy. And it's nuts that people, but like really like they believe. I know Anton's jerking himself off or something on the screen.
I'm making the jerk off motion, but I spit
Yeah.
in my hand when I did it.
But this, like those videos are crazy, and I do believe that it's just the power of suggestion and them like the energy of the room. So much how people freak out when they go see a baseball or fucking football game.
So some people, yes, but all of the miracles and the healing people, those are fucking plants in the audience.
Oh, 100%. Like, didn't Jim Jones do it where it was like a pig's thing and he pretended to rip the cancer out of them?
Something stupid like that. There have been a lot of con people that have done
like,
I'm pulling tumors out. It's like, no, you're not.
Just wait, because now that we've understood that how we want to do certain episodes, kind of like how we did Dahmer, this idea of talking about it in a big contextual.
Dahmer was well received. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, like a whole thing. You know what I mean? Like just really deep diving into all of our thoughts, especially when there's 3 or 4 of us on. Jim Jones is also a crazy thing because we bring up like religion, this idea that you can persuade people to believe crazy things.
Well, I have a guest that's
very
well versed in the Jim Jones shit that wants to join us for that one too. So
It's fucking nuts, man. So, and she pledged into like, oh, my service, but I get the idea of service to others and not service to self. That's what the law of one talks about, and that is a good place to live in. Even if you're not religious, this idea to make sure that you're serving other people and being there for others more than what you would like think about others more than you think about yourself. I know that's hard in the egotistical, narcissistic world that we live in, but I try to do those things.
I think a lot of it is coming around more and more. I think people do still have this sense of self and community, and I think honestly the pandemic and everything kind of helped that in a lot of ways. I think a lot of people
did way worse.
Oh, they did, yes, but I think a lot of people that wouldn't normally have been people that went to go through the the long dark night of the soul. I think a lot of people had to confront a lot of shit when they were locked in their homes.
Yeah, people getting beat by their boyfriends that never knew they could beat them and stuff like that.
I'm not even just talking superficially I'm talking more on a more spiritual level, you fucking bastard.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because in like 5 years, we'll talk about how crazy COVID was. And it's like people just getting, because a lot of relationships like flipped on their head being stuck in your house. People got like murdered each other.
The murder part's fucked up, but the people, the relationships ending, what if that just saved people a couple years of trouble?
I agree.
Like, what if that expedited certain things that were already going to come to a boiling point later, but because it came to a boiling point earlier, it didn't have enough fuel for the fire to turn it into a tragedy, so it didn't. But there are also obviously a lot of fucking fires that burned too hot and ended in horrific tragedies.
And then you have the idea, right, that like this idea of what Betty was supposed to be shown is that you're here to learn lessons, and sometimes a lot of these like how do you know if you're ascending? How do you know if you're awakening? Type of like videos or posts. It's always like you like cut off relationships that are like toxic to you. You're feeling more tired. You're feeling more connected to the earth, and they give you like a list of things that anyone could feel. But like it does kind of somewhat make sense to an extent that like as you're learning in your spiritual growth, if your spiritual growth in or even in general, just becoming a better person and wanting to be more loving and caring, and you have someone with you or someone attached to you or someone you're friends with that doesn't also share that, and they're a toxic person that loves to drink and belittle people, you tend to just go away from those relationships.
Are you attacking me right now?
No, I was just making the idea. Oh yeah. Fucking, what are we bickering now?
I like to drink and belittle people. What do you know?
Billy does. So, and me and Billy have had plenty of arguments on and off the show about like, because we're different and we've always stayed friends. But this idea that, you can grow apart from people. That happens all the time. That's why divorce is absolutely
a fucking thing. Yeah.
Because you can go to a different direction than somebody else goes. And that's,
they say something like statistically, like every 7 years, you generally shed like a layer of skin.
5 to 7 years, your entire life is different. Like every 5 years, you're in a totally different spot than you thought you'd be 5 years ago. So as the minister starts speaking in tongues, and which is strange, his wife jumped up and ran to the aisle to Betty and put her hands on Betty's head. Fucking weird. And began speaking in tongues herself. It's like she runs over, Betty here. Fucking starts speaking in tongues and shit. Then the minister interrupted his wife's tongues, and it was a message for Betty. You have given all that you have. Thou shalt be blessed above women. What does that mean, bro?
Mary. He basically just called her Mary.
Thou shalt be blessed above all women.
Yeah, that's what was said to Mary by the angel.
See,
something similar to that.
I was in church till I was 6, and then they were saying some really homophobic shit, and my mom took us out of
I had
church.
to deal with it, and I was in church until I was 17.
My brother used to sit up and like watch like the sermon stuff, and I was always in Sunday school. I'm like, I ain't watching this boring ass fucking weirdo in his robe telling me how to fucking live. Even at that age, I was like, this is weird. There's something like I don't like about this, and I don't care if people are religious and go to church if it does make you a better person. It just wasn't my thing.
Don't drag your fucking kids with you when they don't want to go anymore.
Yeah,
it's not doing them any good. And in actuality, you know what? Yeah, maybe do, because they will end up absolutely hating your fucking religion.
Yeah, Anton's got big beef with religion.
I have major beef with most religion. I have no problem with people's individualistic faith, provided it makes them a better person. But as far as organized religion and the bigotry that comes with most American Christianity, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. Nobody wants you here anymore. Go home. She doesn't even go here.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. This was evidently the scene as Betty remembered it from when she was younger. But now in the strange replay on the mothership, she noticed some differences. Some of the people had light around them, these including Betty and the minister and his wife. And the two elders were present in the room, unseen by the congregation. One of the elders stood behind the minister and put his hands on the man's shoulders. And this is when he began speaking in tongues. Then the elder whispered in the ear of the minister's wife. And this is when she jumped and administered the blessing to Betty. Evidently, the whole scenario had been orchestrated by the elders. After being shown this scene from the past, Betty witnessed live what clearly seemed to have been an act of ritual magic performed by the elders. 3 of them stepped into the circle drawn on the floor, subdivided by straight lines into 6 equal parts. That's fucking weird. They touched their hands together, and then they concentrated as beams of light came out of their foreheads and formed a triangle at the length of the center of this triangle, then appeared in a ring of light and floated into the air. This is intense. Like, imagine like you didn't know this is in your head, and then it gets brought out by like some sort of like hypnotherapy.
Geometric patterns that occur in a lot of psychedelic experiences.
I see crazy shit, dude. Like when we were outside and I looked in the stars when I was on like 2.5, 3 grams of mushrooms watching movies, it looks crazy. Like it's just like everything seems like to connect in these. It's fucking weird, dude.
I've talked about before that time that I dropped acid for the first time in a hot minute, and I had been drawing. Like I'd been learning to draw sacred geometry symbols previously, like the egg of life, the web of life and everything like that. And when the trip peaked, I started seeing those patterns everywhere. Like, and it would zoom into like a cellular level and then zoom back out. And it was like, again, it's set and setting. So
yeah. Did you see the number 21 everywhere?
No, it's the number 23.
23, God damn it. That's fucking Christ. It's funny. I went and saw, just to bring up very short banter. Me and my cousin went and saw that. And then he was like doing the whole number 23 thing. He's like, if you add this up, and he's like, well, as we're going out of the movie theater, he was like looking at something. It's all 23, like making a joke. And
see, to me, that movie is proof that Jim Carrey is actually a Discordian.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because 23 is the sacred number of Discordia. 2 and 3 is 5, the law of fives, the 5-fingered hands of Eris.
Honestly, it could be. I like Jim Carrey. I don't give a fuck what people think. So, and all these beams are forming, which is fucking crazy. So 3 more elders stepped in the circle. And they began chanting. Oh! Oh! Oh!
That's humming, not chanting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like what? 3 more beams of light appeared, forming a perfect hexagram. A large circle of light formed around their heads of the elders. Then this light ring moved upwards, shrank to the size as the ring in the center, then floated down into the interconnected with it, forming a revolving spherical object, which finally condensed into a beach ball size orb of lavender purple light. This was then taken and placed in 4-pronged stand, which had obviously been designed specifically to hold such spheres. This is fucking get weird.
Spheres for fears.
The term elders is Betty's name for these beings. When on early occasions she asked them who they were, they answered, they are the ambassadors of O, masters of the rings, circles, and orbs. Now, after witnessing the creation of the magical orb, Betty asked an elder, who is O? He replied that O is an internal, external, and eternal presence. Internal, external, and eternal presence.
So it's Valis?
That's Valis.
Let me look up the exact term for Valis, but Valis is that beam of light that went into vast active living intelligence system. Philip K. Dick's Gnostic vision of God, essentially the beam of pink light that went into his head and told him that his son had a tumor in his brain.
I gotta get into Philip.
PKD.
Yeah, it seems fun. I only know bits and pieces about the man, but seems fun.
Start with shit like A Scanner Darkly or
Oh, I've seen that movie.
read the book. The movie's good, but the book's a little better.
My buddy, it's funny we always get brought up to mushrooms. My buddies chew like the first time they did mushrooms, I wasn't there, but they were like, "Oh, we're gonna do it." We're like 14, 15. They chewed a gram and a half and watched Scanner Darkly.
Yeah, let's eat. This movie looks visually awesome. Which
Yeah.
okay, here's a secret. Okay,
Don't watch the
for
movie.
people that are like, this movie looks visually awesome. It is when you're not tripping. When you're tripping, you tend to focus on the storyline other than when you're peaking. And that
Yeah.
storyline is one about addiction, relapse, and depression. And the fact that, you know, the system basically feeds itself.
There's movies that you could definitely watch. One thing I do want to do is I really do want to listen to Pink Floyd The Walls while watching The Wall. I mean, not The Walls.
That's about the most
wha-
fucking depressing thing you can possibly do.
while
The Wall is
watching-
a horribly, horribly depressing story.
I want to do well. I want to sync it up. Supposedly, really syncs up to Alice in Wonderland, and I think that sounds fun.
The Wall syncs up to Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah,
I've never heard that. I know that Dark Side of the Moon syncs up with Wizard of Oz. I've done that, but
There's a buddy. There's a buddy that I met through actually like TikTok and stuff like that. It was weird. A weird story when I was growing my account and speaking out against the government and stuff like that. I met with this buddy that had like 40,000 people on TikTok at the kind of beginning of it. And he was really diving into the idea of how much money we've spent on COVID and how expensive it was, but they could feed the homeless and all this stuff, like a chill dude. And we met up at a bar, and this guy is like, I can't remember his TikTok name now, but he was like, "Hey, are you this guy?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "It's this guy's Strange Brew." And he's like, "Strange Brew?" And this guy sat down. He's like, "I'm also on TikTok. I see your content all the time." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And weird coincidences. And don't know what the point of the story was. I was gonna say something, and then I just like it fucking with that. I don't know what the point was. But what were we talking about? Sorry, fucking goddamn edit.
that we were just kind of in the middle of brain salad.
Oh fuck, that's stupid. At least I can edit through this shit. It's just hard when it's 2 hours, but Twitch raw cuts. So the next thing that happened to Betty is Betty's extreme startlement. I don't know what that means. The next thing that happened to Betty's extreme startlement was that the elders included an out-of-body experience in her. This is similar to what happened to her experience at age 13. Before she entered the great door and saw the one now on the mothership, as soon as she emerged into her subtle body, one of the elders handed her the orb of purple light. Another led her through a portal made of rippling waves of energy. On the other side of the portal, Betty and the elders seemed to be on Earth in woods at night. Some hobos were sleeping on the ground. It's like, this is a strange story. One of them awakened and approached the two visitors. He glowed with light. The elders wore little rings on their fingers, and he allowed the hobo to take one. It's just like, this guy's like, oh, hey, what is happening? Whoa, man, did I fucking take way too much heroin? It's just like you walk over, it's like, here, take this ring of light from my finger, hobo. And then he sucks on his finger and fucking pulls the ring off that way. That's fun. So, what are you reading? No, you're not reading. I thought you were
I'm
reading
listening. No, I heard hobo and
so they gave one of they allowed the hobo to take some of them and then turn them into a single tiny ball of light, which the man kept. So they gave all these rings to this fucking homeless dude, turned it into a ball of light, and then was like, here, I think you'll know what to do with this. It's just like, okay.
You think he was okay and then like turned his life around, or he sold it for crack?
He definitely sold it to crack.
No,
For like,
no.
he got the most money ever.
He wasn't even actually a hobo. He was just an eldritch being disguised as a hobo, and that beam of light took him home.
Yeah,
I believe.
Or he sold the ball of light to a person that listens to EDM music, and then he only sold it for $5, but then the kid sold it for thousands of dollars to Elon Musk, and that's why we have electric cars now. Just fucking kidding. Meanwhile, the larger orb in Betty's hand changed colors and momentarily just kept like it changed colors. Evidently, in resonance with this transaction, every once in a while, Betty's attention was drawn into the ball. So all the stuff's happening. They're staying there in a forest with some fucking homeless dudes. This homeless dude takes a ball. She has a ball in her hands, and then it changes colors. And then, oh, she said, it's just so beautiful. Something in it keeps moving. That's not how Betty sounded earlier, but on the other side of the portal, Betty and the elders seemed to be on Earth. In fucking goddamn in the woods. Now the elder touched Betty's shoulder, and there was a little explosion of white light. And then they were in a different place, a hospital room where a very old man lay in bed, with a nurse keeping vigil beside him. And then there was two small entities which seemed to be made of darkness, where we're tugging at the man. That's frightening.
Mhm.
So there's all these seems like different beings wherever she's seeing, wherever she's being taken to view and see is this idea of a nurse is kind of beside him as he's dying. And then two entities are tugging at him, but she can see him, but obviously the nurse can't, as they're trying to pull his soul out of his body. This was Betty's impression. Sounds like what I experienced with my shadow people. Fucking seeing that shit was frightening. But there was also a presence of a light being. This type of entity Betty had encountered before in her experiences. It had no visible human features, but appeared as a bodily form made of white light. The being was tugging at the dying man. It was clearly a battle for his soul, these opposing entities. The elders resolved the conflict. He threw two tiny balls of light at the black entities, and they flew away. That's weird, eh?
Yeah.
No, like this is when I was reading up on this stuff, one of the strangest.
This is a full-on like encounter and battle between light and dark entities. It seems like
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that they were showing her like probably like, hey, once in a while we got to do this for the people that deserve it. Some people, like some of your government officials, will probably be taken away by the dark entities, but we're gonna throw balls of light at the people that we think are worthy. It's just like, because they can't save fucking the bad people. It's like you gotta, you know what I mean? If there's
there are no bad people. There are people growing and learning.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That's probably correct. And like I said, you need these people, these people that essentially fuck with our being and our planet, and these people for learning lessons. You need the dark to influence the light, to bring
Every
the light
story
forward.
needs antagonists and protagonists, and every yin needs a yang. But I just, wish we could maybe stop fucking.
Yeah. A lot.
Sorry,
of things.
another thing just happened when we were recording this. So
yeah, somebody else shot up a gay club, right?
Yeah, Q in
just came
Colorado
out.
Springs, and it's just
like it's just like a lot of times I think like they're talking about like how the other aliens can't influence us and help an evolving race of beings, right? They're not supposed to. It's like in Star Trek. But then the idea where there's too much yang, darkness, not enough yang, light, you could say, and then you have, and then it's just like people believe that the reptilians and dark energies are influencing our planet, while the other aliens are like, we can't intervene. Shit out of luck, because these reptilians seem very strong, and this is like they love humans. So that's my interpretation of it. It's a strange one, but I believe that they're influencing our reality more than the good entities are. That's what I take from what I've seen on this planet. I don't know what Anton thinks, but
I don't know. I don't really have conclusions that I've come to about things like that. I have ideas that maybe we're going through a bad period of change with the fall of any empire, comes very dark, very confusing times, but also periods of great growth. Or, I mean, we certainly have the technological capacity to just wipe the planet. So
yeah, it's true. And then leave Mother Nature alone.
Who knows? Well,
she can regrow. This idea.
Yeah, she can regrow, but here's the fucking problem: is that we have enough nuclear reactors and facilities that if they are not maintained, they will melt down. So if humans disappear, that shit is going to melt down. We have things set up that without human intervention will absolutely, and I'm sure the Earth can probably regrow and resustain itself, and life will find a way. But there's also the possibility that it just dies. And
No,
that's
and
it.
I agree, but all the stuff that I read and look into, there's this idea that like that even with the stuff like the the viruses and global warming and everything, it's just
I
like
think viruses and global warming are something that the planet would have a chance to fix itself from. What I think is that humans aren't necessarily a part of that fixing plan.
no, they keep fucking with it and shooting shit into the ionosphere and using HARP technology. But right, this idea that if we're a virus on Mother Earth's body, on Mother Gaia, and if she wanted to get rid of us, she has the defense mechanisms to essentially take us out of the picture if it gets bad enough, according to the stuff that I've read.
Viruses have their place in nature as well. I mean, destruction is just as much a part of life as creation is. So
100%. And who knows if they're creating laboratories, which seems like they were, and they keep creating
Well,
worse
some of
ones
them
to be like,
absolutely
what
were.
happened? It's just like that. What's that one in Chicago? It's like, let's make this the most deadliest virus possible. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah, let's do that. They fucking put all this money towards it. It's like
it's probably
so
that same
fucking
theory
weird.
where it's like, well, if we're not doing it, somebody else is going to do it. It's like
That's such a
do you have
stupid.
to be the person that
I
does it?
know.
Because
I know,
please
so
don't.
weird. So all these like the beings flew away. Then the elders and Betty were next transported to the woods again. It seemed like they're showing her all this weird stuff, and she can only remember these portions of it. It feels like where a small saucer and two grays awaited them. Then they went on board and evidently flew up into the sky. Betty asked where they were going, and the elders replied they were going to see the one. Betty had given the purple orb to one of the grays. She was very reluctant and sorrowful to give it up. The craft came to a stop, and they emerged into a place filled with bright light. Above them was the great door, which was the source of light. The elder touched one of the grays on the shoulder and spoke to him. And then came along the elders and Betty as they walked towards the light. They turned into a run, so they're just like walking, and then it slowly like starts getting fucking faster for some reason as they move swiftly into the pure radiation. Betty was overwhelmed with ecstasy of the one, and what she experienced. The hypnotist on the couch, and several people in attendance were all profoundly moved by the visual effects of her transformation. So as maybe she's going through this and regressing this, she's crying and bawling her eyes out, and they're moved by her experience and what she thinks that she's experiencing in her head or memories. Know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Betty and the elder and the gray all turned into light beings as they went into the one. Each one was a different hue. The elder's light body were pure white. The gray alien was light blue, and Betty was golden. But Betty said,
Oh, there is such love. Oh, there is such peace. I'm just engulfed in light and blending into that light. Oh, this is everything. 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 I cannot explain the wonder and beauty and the love and peace.
Did you find what I was reading from? And then came a heartbroken cry as Betty realized that she would have to leave this beatific state of oneness.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back. I have to go back for others so that they too will see. They will understand and know.
And Betty and the elder and the gray emerged back out of the light, turning back into their normal forms in the process. The elder gave three of tiny ball lights to Betty, and then she was escorted into the saucer, taken home by the grays. She found her physical body sitting up on the side of her bed next to her sleeping husband and re-entered it. Then the experience had ended. And
great. I'm back here with Captain Stinky Farts.
Yeah, fucking. And her husband also seems like a weird person, Bob. Because Bob seems like had his own experience, because essentially she was like, had this experience happen. It was wiped from her memory. The general consensus of the investigation was both Betty and her daughter, Becky, sincerely believed themselves to be abducted by aliens. As for what the other family members believed, her father had since passed on, and her ex-husband has disappeared, and her two sons have died in an automobile accident. Remaining family members who were part of the incident are apparently vague on the subject. It's crazy that she had these beautiful religious experiences to her UFO encounter, and then like her husband, her ex-husband, he disappears, which is fucking weird. He just like fucking leaves. And then her two sons died in a car accident. Is fucking extremely sad.
Yes. No, it's
Like,
horrible.
that's fucking crazy. Like after all these crazy experiences he had, because Betty traveled a lot of the country, attending numerous TV interviews and radio shows and lectures about UFO experience. She and her husband Bob Luca had been unsettled for many years until 1995 when they moved to Virginia. They lived in Virginia for 5 years and then moved to Florida. And see, I pulled up something else that said her, because Betty then remarried Bob, which is crazy. So her husband disappeared, left her. Probably thought like, you're crazy, bitch. And then she ends up marrying Bob, who was also a purported abductee. So she found someone just like her.
There's someone out there for everybody, I hope.
Yeah, it's this whole story is quite crazy, because Betty has memories of an alien abduction of her own, some which occurred before and some occurred after her mother's alleged abduction in 1967. So it's crazy because Becky also has her memories too of, supposedly her daughter also has memories of being abducted. And then you have to think about, is it the bloodline? You know what I mean? Like, is this something connected to this family?
It's entirely possible.
You know what I mean? That like they've maybe experienced this through generations of people.
There
There
is that theory that like certain abductees and stuff, it is a generational thing. Like they're genetically predisposed, but that gives credence to like the hybrids, theory and things along those lines.
Yeah, and some of the art is crazy. Of like, there's one where it says Betty has her shoe replaced to insulate her from her environment from the Watchers too. That's why this could probably go on a lot longer, and there's probably so much more detail into her books. But I just wanted to to me, we've talked about the Betty and Barty Hill like case, but this is, I would say, a very strange one to say the least. It's a lot different than. Yeah, it's a lot different than.
I practiced while I was sitting here watching movies last night. I practiced my Betty voice, and it's somewhere in a combination between Jennifer Coolidge and just a very soft voice.
I like this, and I thought this is very interesting. And obviously, if there's stuff that we haven't covered, who knows? It might come back to it if I find any more information when we choose to do our very long episode about just alien abductions as a whole. Because Aaron seems to really want to get into that, and we've seen what it can become of these conversations when we dive deep into them on a kind of free-formed presentation, I guess you could say, of these episodes, because there are so many crazy alien abduction cases that we'll dive deeper into that will get mentioned down the line. But this one I didn't really hear as often as other ones, like ones when I was younger and I was researching this stuff. This is a one that I didn't know too much about.
I honestly had only ever heard the name. I'd never looked into this case, so thank you.
No. Yeah, it was something very interesting. I'm glad that we dive back into aliens, because there's crazier stuff coming, and we hope that you guys really do enjoy what we're trying to do over at Strange Brew as we develop this brand and the Hosehead Productions and our connections now with Aaron and stuff like that. And Billy will be back. Billy's been fairly busy and stuff like that too. So there's stuff coming up for a lot of different episodes, and we're usually trying not to spoil it because we kind of want to make these episodes timeless, but there's stuff coming for Christmas, for winter, for a lot of stuff.
It's coming so hard.
Yeah. I don't want to ever get the snow that Anton got, so it sounds not
that
fun.
was stupid. I gotta go watch the game and then hopefully get my friends to help me shovel out.
I don't even like shoveling.
I
hate shoveling. I don't want any of that. Do not bring that fucking over the border.
This might be the last episode for Anton because he'll have a heart attack and stroke out while shoveling.
Yeah, you're gonna get one of those like metal shovels, the one that old scary guy had on.
No, it's plastic. It's shitty. Oh, and Home Alone.
This was fairly fun, and like we just wanted to kind of dive into this case. There's a lot to this case. She has tons of books out there. She died this year. So I might dive into some of her books, and then we can talk about in greater detail on like a different alien abduction episode when we do our freeform one. But I wanted to give you this one because there's a lot of stuff coming. We're going to dive back into conspiracy soon. It's Just wait for it because it's gonna get strange.
It's gonna get strange.
Jesus. All right. You know where to find us, Anton. Stranger Podcast. Join the Instagram. Give us a 5-star review. That is the best thing you can do. That's for free. People are starting to join the Patreon more and more and stuff like that. So that's patreon.com/strangebrewpodcast. There's tons of extra content on there. There's tons of stuff coming. We have tons of stuff in talks in the plans. I have a list of Patreon episodes to do. There is like a ton of shit. We're never going to run out. We have ideas galore.
We're over
Laundry
at Real
list of
Strange
episodes.
Brew on Twitter. Hit us up.
Shit,
We're
no,
also
I-
taking, ideas and shit.
Yeah, you can also email us at strangerpodcast@gmail.com, stuff like that.
Don't forget House of Trash for all
Yes.
your fun movie and film needs. Go check out Invader Daggett on Twitch, fuckers.
Yeah, go watch Anton play games as a potato, because that's what he
Mhm.
does.
I do love being a potato, and exciting new stuff coming to the stream very soon.
Awesome. This will be exciting. Obviously, watch out for stuff on First Class Horror, because we have a lot of talks for some really fun episodes for his show, our show. There's a lot of stuff in the works, so be excited. And if you have any alien abduction experiences at all, anybody out there that ends up hearing this, listening to this, you can send us an email. I would read it out. I will talk about it. But if there's anyone out there that has any sort of experiences with the paranormal, you like alien abductions, UFO stories, write us. Post even on the Host Heads page on Facebook, because I would like to hear it.
And
All right.
remember,
Guard your butthole during abductions. Whoa.
Stay strange, fuckers.
bye-bye.